That was really amazing. I love this new music feature. They're always adding new stuff here. It's not the toilet bowl, but I like the new music. It's classy. It's relaxing. It is what it is. Well, guys, another eventful UConn football season has come to an end. Rather eventful UConn practice today. Few people, no, let's just put it this way. There's some combat basketball going on. Talk a little bit about that. And then preview Georgetown, those poor bastards that have to come up here tomorrow and play a basketball game. But if anybody wants to jump on in, I'm not going to go crazy through the recap. I have a confession to make. I 90% watched it today. Had a bunch of stuff flying all around at work. Wife was in a car accident a couple weeks ago. Got the news today that our $60,000 car is totaled about 6 months after we bought it. So doing a little car shopping early on, among other things. So if anybody wants to hop on, talk a little UConn football, talk a little UConn basketball, it's open mic night here. I asked if you guys wanted some spaces. So here we go. So if you guys want to flop on in and chit chat, you are more than welcome to do that. I am settling in here on Space Couch as we speak. Norman is hanging out with me tonight. Eat my carrots as always. Oh, we got Meg Bard coming in. Let's get her rolling in here. Ms. Bard, how are you tonight?
HB, how's it going?
It's all right.
I just had to shout our beautiful and wonderful friend Mary, who just...
What happened to Mary? You there?
Oh, did I lose you guys? Did I lose you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you there for a second. You good?
Oh, well, terrible. I'm back. I'm here. I just wanted to shout our friend Mary with her, who just dropped a new episode of UConn Press Secretary. Everyone should immediately check it out. It's an absolute delight.
Damn app up. It screwed up everything. It's all fucked up now. Nothing works. Can everybody hear me in the chat channel, by the way? Just give me a thumbs up. And then if you can hear Megan, give us a thumbs up as well. Or you can give me a thumbs down if you can hear me and a thumbs up if you can hear Megan.
I can hear you. You can hear... Okay, great. Wonderful.
All right, I think we're connected now. Yeah, it's my new favorite UConn show.
Love it. It's absolutely delightful. Mary does not miss. I particularly appreciate that she managed to dunk on both Purdue and Providence simultaneously, which is really just like an elite level. And, you know, we love Mary for that.
Purdue fans were a little upset with me today.
Purdue fans really, the thing that's so funny is like last week when we were yelling at Purdue fans, they were like, we have 5 quad 1 wins and you have like 2 or whatever it was. And now we both have 4. And now they have nothing to hang it on because we beat all of our teams by double digits and they like are struggling to get past mid-majors this week. So like they know they're wrong. They know it. They just have nothing left to argue.
Well, the hilarious part about it is we're beating the brakes off a team so bad that we're taking our own wins and turning them from quad 1 to quad 2.
That's legitimately the most hilarious thing. Florida did just spot back up to quad 1, which is nice, but we beat them so badly at the time that it dropped to a quad 2 win.
We're beating teams so badly we're bludgeoning our own resume. That's the best part about it.
That's the most. It really is just absolutely hilarious. But yeah.
So there's that. My favorite one was the guy who was like, all of UConn's opponents' offensive efficiency is 179 in KenPom. Well, I don't know, asshole. Maybe it has to do with something like to the fact that UConn's defense is number 2 in KenPom.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why their offensive efficiency is so bad. I wonder.
It's just so funny to watch this team. I'm how are you feeling, HotBalls, about playing Georgetown this week? Like we're seeing Akok for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm having very mixed emotions, to be honest.
Yeah. How are you feeling about it? Be honest.
Honestly, like there's a part of me that's like a little salty because he went to Georgetown, but like I can't get mad at a kid for doing whatever he wants. But then there's the other part of me that's like, get him, Andre. you know, because
I've
that's going to be,
got mixed emotions about it too.
yeah.
And part of that was for all like the Twitter silliness that kind of went on,
Yeah.
like right around while it was happening. And like, you know, I mean, here's what I think. I feel so. This is the thing with the portal, and I need to get over it. Right.
Right.
This is a me
Right.
problem.
Yeah.
But like, and this is, I think, from us being older and just not used to this at this point. But like,
It's almost
there's a
100% true.
there's a part of the portal stuff, right? Like that I totally get. Like Akok needed. If there was a guy that probably needed to transfer to put himself in as good of a spot as he could heading forward, it was probably Akok.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
with a guy that's kind of got a pro-ish future and, you know, needs to be on the court and getting minutes, right? And look, going to Georgetown, yeah, you're getting minutes at Georgetown. So
Yeah.
I get all that. And like I don't want to fault guys for doing what's in their best interest, right? That's for me to get over on a large part of it. But there's like another part of me that like on the way out, like there's a way to kind of handle it. And he didn't seem very happy here at all. And he just kind of stormed right the fuck out. And I don't like that. That bothers me. And I'm an old school guy too, in the sense that like, I don't know.
I think part of it too is like he and Andre got chippy, and I will be like, I am ride or die Andre Jackson, like
Yeah, no.
100% team Andre. So like, you know,
I,
that's just kind of where it lands for me.
that's kind of where I'm like, Andre might be the actual best human that we've had in the program in a long time.
How about
Like,
we talked about this in the timeline a little last week about Andre like so casually telling us at the Husky Ticket Project event against Syracuse when we were at the football game that like they were just, we're gonna win the national championship. And I feel like we didn't like really take him that seriously. And now I'm like, well, I'm an asshole. I should have.
yeah, well, it's one of those things when like when we were there, it was, I mean, it was obviously really cool, but like
Yeah.
I'm sitting there talking to these guys in a fucking wrestling mask, you know? So like there's always that like there's that element of like, and I'm sure there's some curiosity, at least a little bit. I'm not trying to be vain on their end about what the fucking idiot's all about. So like they said stuff there that I was like, all right, well, I mostly believe that, but there could be an element of them that's like fucking with me, right? Like
Yeah.
Samson Johnson, all he wanted to do was talk about Joey Calcaterra. He's like,
Right?
he's like, this kid is a fucking assassin. He
We
goes,
asked
you don't
them,
even
like,
get it.
Andre just like came over at our table and started chatting. It was me and Russ and my brother. And like, first thing we were like, you know, how do you think the team's gonna do? How are you gonna? And he was like, we're gonna win the national championship. And I was like, okay. And then we were like, who's the best, you know, shooter? And there's like Tristan Newton standing right next to me. He's like, Tristan Newton. And then he kind of, oh, it's Joey. And everyone's like, oh yeah, Joey's the shooter. Joey's the shooter. And I was also kind of like, really? That the random dude from California? Okay, all right. But turns out he is an assassin.
No, seriously. So like the thing
We should
is,
have just believed them.
it's not just like the confidence with Andre, but like, you know, it's another thing that I noticed there. Again, I don't want to overblow a fucking charity event where they were meeting a bunch of us dopes for the first time, but like watching them, you know, just interact with other humans, you could really tell Andre was very different from the other guys. Like he was going off playing Mr. Mayor, introducing
Yeah.
himself to people, like full blown conversations, like was into the whole thing, man. Like absolutely in his element, like really liked being the mayor of the town. Like you could tell, all right, like this guy's the leader of the team.
Yeah.
Right. And
Big
he's like
captain
directing
vibe.
guys where to go. Like Sonogo was wicked funny to talk to
Yeah.
because like he stood over next to the cement wall and like, you know, like I would be like, you know, how's everything going on campus? Everything's good and your classes are going okay. And all Sonogo wants to talk about is basketball, man.
I love that.
He's like talking about his fucking jump shot, and I've been working on this. Like, I asked him, how's the off season and everything, and like I got the whole itinerary from Adama of like absolutely every, like Adama's one of those like obsessive. He's obsessed with college basketball. Like he just wants to become the best player on planet Earth. But like there's just I mean this in the best way. I don't mean this to like even come off like a knock, but like there's definitely a naivete and a softness to Adama talking to him. Like you can tell like he loves basketball, man. But like I don't expect, you know, Adama Sinogo to get on a horse like Napoleon and lead an army into battle, screaming and raving like a lunatic. Like Andre Jackson is a fucking lunatic. You know what I mean? And
100%.
like absolutely just has it together, and he's mature, and obviously there's some confidence there, but like he's just he's got it together. There's some certain kids you talk to and you're like, yeah, man, this one's a little different from everybody else. And he was definitely a guy that kind of came across like that. So like when you get into the stupidity behind the scenes, like if you're pissing Andre off,
yeah,
like you gotta be pissing a lot more than people off than just Andre. And like when you get a guy like Andre who gets it and like needs to, who I would assume has the emotional maturity to understand, like you got to be, especially a place like UConn, you be a little careful with the words you choose and what you do on social media and stuff like that. For him to tee him high and let him fly like that multiple times, not just in the social media stuff, but in the interviews, like there's a part of me that wonders, what's going on behind this, wonders kind of what the dynamic was behind the scenes. And I heard some things, I'm not going to comment on any of them, but like, it's interesting sometimes when you get under the hood and, some of those interpersonal relationships and the guys that spend so much time together. And, it's tough. It's tough. So I don't know. I got mixed emotions. I'm happy for Akok. I want him to be successful.
Yeah.
But it's like with all the transfer stuff, man. But then, like, on the other hand, it's the other thing too. Like when they post these fucking like, I'll always be a Husky and I love you, but
yeah,
I'm getting the fuck out. Like I kind of don't need that either. So again, I got a lot of shit I got to sort through with it. But
it's
like it
weird
gets
too
under
because
my
like
skin.
some guys like Brendan Adams who like got his degree and is like going and like getting like I have no beef with him. I think it's just like the interconference thing, especially, and also like whatever that chippiness was. But like, yeah, there is like a little. I don't know, but it is definitely like I should probably get over it. But I'm interested to see how they interact. Like if because you got to think they're going to be like Akok's getting a ton of minutes, Andre's getting a ton of minutes. Like they're going to be on the floor together. Maybe we'll see something. Maybe a little fireworks. I don't know.
Well, they're going to be on the floor together because Georgetown doesn't have a whole hell of a lot else to throw out on the floor against this front line.
What's the spread on this game? I haven't even seen
23 points is what I saw last. Which, what does anybody know? We need Puneet around. He may know this. What's the largest spread ever in the Big East Conference? Point spread heading into an individual game? Because
that's a great question.
I can't remember a pregame spread this large for us ever in a conference game.
And you know what's hilarious? I would absolutely take UConn, 100%, no question.
Yeah,
yeah, I think they're gonna win by 30, like at least.
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends on what Georgetown shows up. If the half the starting lineup cares, it could be 20.
Could be.
But I mean, that's the biggest spread I can remember seeing in a long, long time on a Big East game of any kind. I don't know, full 40s in here. Villanova might have had some pretty monster spreads a couple years ago. But it's got to be up there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I think we've got 4 games on the schedule where everybody can kind of kick back a little bit and enjoy the show without being really nervous. And those are going to be the 2 DePaul games and the 2 Georgetown games. Every other one, welcome to this stupid ass conference. You never know what could happen. But those are going to be the 4 games where I think we can enjoy ourselves a little bit. And everybody better enjoy themselves tomorrow night because degree of difficulty is about to go up big time in the next 2.5 weeks.
The Nerd has this game tomorrow. 99% chance that UConn will win. An 86-60 is the Nerd spread for those who care, which is I know all of us.
That is enormous. I can't see Georgetown scoring 60 points.
I honestly can't either, but though they did it's hard to say though because Xavier doesn't play defense, but they did just hang 89 points on Xavier, who we play on New Year's Eve. I gotta be honest, that's the one, like New Year's Eve, this isn't the trauma talking again, but like a New Year's Eve game always just like fucks me up a little bit. And Xavier, like, at Xavier, I feel like that could be a problem.
Yeah, that's one of the I've got 3 trap games on the schedule. Obviously, Marquette going away, going to be kind of tough. Um, Xavier on New Year's, because we talked about this last Spaces. Like, that's the drunkest fan base in the conference. I know Providence likes to lay claim to that, but Xavier knows how to have a good time. And on New Year's Eve on the road with us ostensibly being number 2, we'll see what happens this week. See if Purdue can manage to lose to New Orleans, which you never know. They struggle with Davidson. Could be heading into that 2-1, right? One or the other, depending on what happens with Villanova. Well, no, we still would be going in there as number 2, even if we lost to Villanova at home. Be going in there number 2. That's going to be a hot crowd, period. So that one's on there. And then obviously the last game against Villanova and Philly, because we're not going to need to win that game at all. They will have to win that game. It's going to be their second scout. They'll have everybody back. There will be, I would assume, a fairly different team by then. So that could potentially be a trap as well. So we'll see. Those are the 3 on the schedule, though, I'm a little nervous about. And then you've always got to factor in one more game where we just play like absolute dog shit.
I also think Marquette might be sneaky good. And I think there's a good chance we beat Creighton on January 7th. And then Marquette is next. Marquette is next. And that though, is a game that I'm a little nervous about.
It's got to look well. And isn't it like a 2-day turnaround on that, too?
Yeah. No, I lied to you. It's 4 days, Saturday to Wednesday.
Is it? Okay, that's not bad then. But still, I mean, that's because I feel like no matter what Creighton does, that's going to be a white hot crowd on January 7th when 100%. They come to town. And those games, you kind of empty the tank emotionally. It takes a little while to kind of get the old feet back under you. And that's going to be tough to do on the road up there when they're pretty good. I'm wondering what their schedule is looking like heading up to then. They're in Providence tomorrow night. That could be interesting on the road. Although I'm not big in Providence sucks this year.
Providence, it does absolutely suck this year, and it amuses me greatly because then we can just like make fun of them for just absolutely being over the top with their conference championship banner.
It's going to be a really interesting New Year's Eve because they're going to Villanova on New Year's Eve. They had 2 big games.
Yeah,
New Year's Eve. Oh boy, HotBalls is going to be going through the ringer that day. Yikes! It's a lot of good basketball to take in. But yeah, so they've got Providence tomorrow night on the road. Then they're at home for Seton Hall on Thursday. They're next Thursday. Then they're going to get They got to go on the road to Villanova for New Year's Eve. They got St. John's on January 3rd, and then they've got Georgetown at home on the 7th. So a little bit lighter schedule for them. Their letdown game could be 4 days later. They got to go to Xavier right after us. So that'll be an interesting little run for them. So starting to keep an eye on Marquette. Full 40, man. Been patient. What you got for us tonight?
I did check. I Googled 2015, 2016 Villanova DePaul lines, and I found one that was like 24 at some point in time back then. So I was looking for something, but and by the way, we didn't cover. You guys will cover versus Georgetown.
They're so bad.
I was thinking about this game for you guys, and I was thinking to myself, I'm going to come in here and like take it easy on him. I actually want to see if you guys can get Patrick Ewing fired by Christmas.
Oh hell yeah!
Like, can you throw like a 60, double them up, like a 50-point win on them, like something that really sends them to a point where they're like, well, we got to evaluate things before 2023.
This is a good question for the panel. How'd you guys take the Georgetown athletic director's comments the other day?
Oh, I would love to talk about
that. Is that the we've officially given up on sports and don't give a shit speech, or is that the infamous vote of support from an athletic director or general manager before they fire a coach?
I better hope it's the latter, because if it's the former, It is one of the more embarrassing quotes I've heard from a president of a university about this. I mean, this is Georgetown. I just got this. Georgetown holds itself out, and it is an excellent academic institution, right? And it holds itself out as a school that cares about social issues and all these other things. And here we are, and he's describing transfer portal and the NIL as crises, which is just a horrible reflection on him and that institution, right? Like at a very basic level. And then like in terms of actual putting then, okay, support for the basketball program shows that it almost came across like, no, not almost, it did come across like they're not willing to do what it takes to be successful in 2022 and beyond college basketball. And I don't mean that as like they're not willing to cheat. Like these are allowed things. They're not willing to do the things that are allowed to be successful. And that is very concerning. And to describe it as a crisis in particular was particularly biting in my view.
Meg, what'd you think?
I mean, Tommy Amaker's right there. Call him. You know, it's not like there aren't options. It's not like Georgetown can't hire somebody good. They should have done it last year. They should. I mean, like, and I get it. It's Patrick Ewing, but like, at some point, you're Georgetown. Like, get it together. Just get it together.
It spooks me, and I know this is probably not the best comparison, but you know, we had a bunch of Georgetown guys on here about a month or two ago, and they were talking about, you know, a lot of things that people don't talk about in terms of how that athletic department is structured. And really, in a lot of ways, they run their sports like a D3 athletic department, right? Like they kind of have dedicated staff for basketball. But their baseball coach was there for fucking 30 years and didn't do anything. I know him. He's in my league. Like, just fucking took a nap for 20-something years.
Wow.
Like, and they were never good. They've always been terrible, right? And it's really hard to stink in high academic baseball the way they do. I'm a little nervous. They're Boston Colleging it. I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of believe them.
Really? Well,
I do. I because I think this is going to be like, you know, the transfer portal is going to change a lot of things, and we've all been talking about it. Like, you know, I think, you know, on the labor side, quote unquote, you know, we're seeing sort of little inklings at some of the bigger schools where guys are getting paid ass loads of money, not giving a shit. Like we're seeing it at Kentucky. Like I really think Calipari is in deep dog shit.
yeah.
Like I think he's done because like, and that's why I'm skeptical of like Patino coming in, having a lot of, he's a better coach, but like those guys, their marketplace advantage was cheating and paying guys and money laundering. Basically, they did better than anybody, right? Wasn't that everybody else could out business them? It's that they were better at hiding it than everybody else. Fucking Lou Rowe still lives in a fucking booster's house in Amherst. All right, from UMass from way back when. Swear to God. Guy owns a chain of liquor stores up here. Big UMass booster owns the fucking house. Lou Rowe's still just chilling in it, even after he's been canned as a UMass coach. All right, like that's how deep this stuff goes with Cal. And now like the cat's out of the bag, and now everybody can kind of do this, right? So I think they're going to get out NIL'd at Kentucky, or at least Cal will, right? And his big thing was just getting guys out of here. If they're getting paid, like if Oscar Sheway, he's getting paid what, $3 million right now, something like that. What's he give a fuck what Cal has to say? He's out of here in 6 months. Going to cash that check, go into the draft, and do whatever the fuck it is he's going to do, right? And guys like Jeff Goodman are going to sit there like they're befuddled as to why, right? But on the other end of that, I think we're going to see schools sit it out, right? Like, I just think they're going to sit there and go, I'm not going to put a whole army of humans together to fucking put together all these different organizations and NIL groups to pay these fuckers. Like, we're not going to do that. Why would, and on, you know, I mean, I get it on the state level, we're state and public universities, obviously, while they want to, but like, why is Georgetown going to do that? With what money?
Yeah, I mean, it
You know,
is different when you have like the public school base. You know, there's just so many humans who've gone to UConn. It's like not hard to raise a bunch of money. And also, we're all fucking idiots who will buy like whatever you put on a t-shirt. Like you put anything on a t-shirt and we will fucking buy it.
well, and that's the other thing. Like Georgetown, you know, and I've talked about this before with conference realignment, where like we're not there, but we're getting there because it's so out of control. Is that there's just going to be some schools that are like, we're just going to cash it, whatever checks we can get. We're going to do nothing. Boston College is doing it already. They don't give a shit. They don't give a fuck. You can't tell me that anybody in that administration cares whether that football team is 10-2 or fucking 3-80 or whatever the fuck they are. The basketball team's been a dumpster fire. They basically are just now updating athletic facilities. Like they're not going to do that. When it becomes all about like generating revenue and generating a profit, that's what it, for certain schools, particularly private schools, that's all it's going to become about. So I'm going to go pay this coach a gazillion dollars to fucking sit here and pay all these crazy buyouts to get 2 more wins for what? I'm just going to cash my check and be happy with that. The fact that that the school's on television every week and we're basically getting paid to fucking advertise the school, and that's going to be that. And their academic reputation is such that like it's ironclad, man. And on a lower level, I feel like Georgetown's starting to do that, and that's what scares me a little bit in the Big East. You know, is that you know we may end up being stuck with a school that's going to take that approach.
But I think for Georgetown is like they're still Georgetown. They still can go out and get a coach and still like get guys to go to that program. Like they're like they can go out and it's not like building a program from scratch. You know, like they still have all of the history of being who they were and you know what have you. So like and they're still in the Big East. Like there are options there. They just have to decide to give a shit and you know not be afraid to fire Patrick Ewing, which I think we are maybe not giving like it is Patrick Ewing, but like man, he's bad. He's
Well, the
bad at
shit show,
coaching.
there's so much turn. It's not even the wins and losses that concern me as much with him. It's the constant turnover. Coaches, players, like it's a dumpster fire.
I mean, they had Wahab go to Maryland. I know he came back, and they just had Harris go to Virginia. That's right next door. Like the 2 big public schools right next door to Georgetown. Just like went into Georgetown and said, "Here, come here, player." And the player was like, "Yeah, I'm fucking out. See ya."
Sorry, did you say Georgetown with what money?
Yeah, that's probably stupid.
They've got more money than God. They are, and good evening, everyone. If anything, they are a Cal Stanford situation. The only thing with Georgetown, and this is what's so incredibly galling for the fans online that they have that we interact with who are great and who care, is that I just think this will be fascinating because I just don't think the admin wants to be like that. They've got the money. They just want the appearance. Look at their football program. They revel. We've heard this from them. Their athletic department actually likes the fact that they're basically a Division III program, not just football, basically everything else. They like the Chicago, Williams, Harvard, Yale sort of Johns Hopkins look of it for the institution they are. They don't. They're upsetting because they've got more money than anybody in this conference. Let's be honest. Right. They've got the money. They just don't want to do it. And if I was a Georgetown fan that saw elite basketball growing up, yeah, it would drive me insane. This isn't like Cody at Seton Hall where they can't raise $16 to pay the freaking plumber. I mean, this is a program that's got a multi-billion-dollar endowment, and the admin would rather it be, old school 1860s amateurism. And if you don't believe me, just ask the president, who only talks about his stint as like the co-president of the NCAA. Never mind that the basketball program's been on fucking fire for 3 years. They would rather the stiff upper lip shit, and it's a problem. They need a mentality change. They don't need money. They need new people making decisions, and that's really hard. Like they can fire Patrick Ewing, sure, whatever, but if the administration isn't going to put actually giving a shit behind the decision makings, then they're going to hire somebody else who doesn't give a shit, and it's going to keep being a problem. They're going to hire Craig Esherick or something.
I mean, I think they're out on athletics. I think they're fine with this. I really do. At least
that's the problem.
upper
Is
levels.
that they are completely fine with this. That is the problem. The league does not need that. They don't care. Like here's for you. What does Georgetown care if the next Big East TV deal stinks? That's a rounding error for what that school operates at. For Seton Hall and Providence, it's a different, it's a different life. So yeah, sorry, I just as usual overpowered with my bullshit, but yeah,
you're totally right.
They're very out on athletics. Like we joke about Cal and Stanford, like Georgetown is doing that a lot faster, and you can do that when forget not having FBS football. Like they are proud of how much of a joke their FCS program is non-scholarship FCS.
Yeah,
like Fordham gives out scholarships in FCS, and Georgetown doesn't. I don't think people because it's weird like grasp just how. It is literally Division III, what they're doing.
No, the whole athletic department's set up like a D3 athletic department. The whole thing, right? I was just talking about before you came on here, like Pete Wilk was the college baseball coach there for fucking 15, 20 years. I think he won 12 games there. Like, basically just went in the dugout and napped. And, like, they didn't give a shit. Nobody gave a shit.
It was really easy to tell back then because, like, look at, and UConn was the same way, like, not just not having lights, but not ever even considering the idea of having lights. Like Georgetown will never put lights in the baseball field. I mean, that's just why would they do such a thing? And full 40, since you're here, I remember when there was the talk about Villanova Big East football, and I kind of felt bad for Nova because they got so much like pressure piled on them from fans about will they, won't they? It's like, meanwhile, Georgetown's over here at the same level, giving a tenth of a shit, and nobody talks about it. Like. I'm not saying either you should be an FBS, but like at least Nova's like spending money at FCS. I kind of respect that.
I mean, Villanova actually like competes. It's if you look through Villanova's FCS history, it's like ranked a good amount of times. They won the FCS championship about 12 years ago. And they've been in the playoffs a bunch of times. Like they give a shit. They actually care about fostering some rivalries. They have a rivalry with Delaware, etc. Like there's some there. Like they could like if they wanted to move up to FBS and they had the pathway to do it. There's some institutional support. It would take a lot because Villanova doesn't think about football in that way. And it's like a big pro sports fan base. It's like, a bunch of Yankees, Phillies, Red Sox, Mets fans who then, all band together and cheer for college basketball in the off season. And they're like, just happy to watch their happy to watch their NFL teams and their MLB teams and kind of go about their way. But I think with some years and dedication and the money's there, like they could field a competitive, bowl game, lower bowl game roster, I think, with some time.
Yeah, by the way, I'm on the Wikipedia page for Cooper Field, which is where Georgetown plays, and I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It seats 3,700, and that is a generous it's worse than 90% of Connecticut high school stadiums. And this is Georgetown, a school that has an endowment of $3.2 billion. So,
yeah, I would just comment there, just because that's something that we have an issue too, is that these landlocked universities are face a little bit bigger challenges.
Right, but the thing about them is it's Georgetown, not Howard. Like Georgetown could go get the RFK site tomorrow if they really wanted to, because they sure as shit don't want to give it to the Commanders. And like the fact that they were never discussed at all in any of that said a lot to me. Like at any point in the 20-year saga of that site, never did you hear a rumor of who Georgetown wants the RFK site. Never came up. Where Villanova would bite its own leg off to try and get that opportunity in its backyard. Whether or not they would do it. Like you guys in Tulane, it was the same deal. Like you both care, you just are stuck with no space whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got these guys with a site right there and more money than sense, and they just don't care. And it's hard for the league. It actually does have an impact on the basketball side. The league needs Georgetown to be top 6 for this thing to really be a lasting function. They can't be the worst team. There are teams that can be. I had to say it. They can't be one of them. And in a way, time's running out. Like HotBalls and I, we're older. We remember what it was like when that thing was going and the cultural impact. And he's going to make the above the rim reference. I get it. I mean, that shit's 30 years ago. Like even the JT3 Final Four team, which was great. I mean, that's 15 years. You can't recruit off of that anymore because the kids were 3, and it's hard enough to keep alumni engaged when it's been that long. But when you're giving them this year after year after year, there's no students at these games either. Sooner or later, that becomes your alumni base. It's a thing we rag about with UConn, but it was never like as bad as they've got it now.
The students are starting to. I mean, they don't give a shit.
Hey, Armin. I didn't see you were there. Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, no, we don't give a shit, and like we're not going to until we're good. I mean, like people care, but they're gonna care if there's change. Literally, the only thing students are holding on to. I can't really speak about the alumni base as a whole, simply because my only memories of Georgetown basketball. I mean, I vaguely remember us losing to Florida Gulf Coast, but that's about it. But like most of the students were basically clinging on to just something change. I mean, I know we're trying to kind of get the student body involved and trying to make something happen, but basketball. I'm not going to say it's a lost cause because it's not. But like, if something doesn't happen, we're not going to care about it. And as for football, it's like our football team's always been a joke, and the only thing that keeps it around is the fact that we have donors, and it's a money grab for the athletic department. Is really what it is. It's the only reason why it stays is because they get a lot of money from it, and that money doesn't necessarily have to go to football, but it's given because we have a football team. I mean, that's why it came back. It's gone, in and out of actually being a team a couple of times. Actually, Jack DeJoy, the president, played on the football team, which is interesting. But people are much more willing to support, soccer, which is huge, and lacrosse, which is insanely good, and just like football, no one cares about. I lived 2 doors down from a couple of players, and they couldn't give a shit. Like honestly, they couldn't give a shit.
Armin, you still there? I don't know if it's my headphones or you.
Yeah, we just lost you there for a second.
Sorry.
Yeah, and
here
for folks who I'll
kind of reiterate what I said there. They basically, the school doesn't care about football. The only thing it does is it gives us a little bit of money because we have donors who are willing to donate for it. But like the players don't care, the students don't care. They're much more willing to support soccer, which is really good. Nationally, an amazing program now. Lacrosse, which is a great program. Football's nothing. I lived 2 doors down from 2 football players last semester, and they could not care less about the team. And like they weren't very good, but like they weren't good players, but still they said their coaches couldn't care less. It's for us, just football's never going to be anything for Georgetown. And I get that once upon a time football had to be a thing that kept some teams in the Big East, and I think we've seen that it's done nothing for those schools to keep football around. But like for the Big East, personally, from a Georgetown perspective, I don't see the relevance, and that's simply because we're a basketball conference. I don't see like where basketball and football can coexist in a Big East conference.
Yeah, it's hard. I would note the fact that like I always loved the trivia fact that Paul Tagliabue played basketball at Georgetown. That picture always made me laugh when they showed the black and white. But now that's no reference to anybody because the man has been NFL commissioner in 20 years. But it's look for tomorrow night. I mean, Armin, it's okay. Why the hell are so many guys transferring? Can you explain this, please? Like
Gladly.
this is insane.
It is malpractice from within the Thompson Athletic Center. Like you don't want to play for. I mean, like from what I hear, it's pretty much a toxic environment in there, and Patrick Ewing is just not a good basketball coach, and they don't surround these players. I mean, they have everything they would need to be a good program, and it's twofold. It's malpractice from the top. It's not just Patrick Ewing. He's a horrible basketball coach, but it's Ronnie Thompson and the people atop the program just can't seem to get it right. And look, it's a program that should be thriving with everything they have, and they just can't seem to create a chemistry and a identity is the way I'll put it. A winning identity, at least in the last 6 years, that make these players, who, by the way, I think are very talented and with a real basketball coach could be a very solid team. I mean, you have very talented, good players on this roster, and they haven't built this sense of identity that makes them a winning program. I mean, Brendan Murray and Primo Spears and Akok Akok are amazing basketball players. And, I know you guys know Cook very well. He is my favorite player because he's the only person who seems to be giving a shit. And it's not the player's fault. That's all I'll say. It's not the player's fault. It's those above them that just can't seem to put it all together. And so Dante Harris is transferred, right? He didn't start the season with the team, and from what we had heard, it was basically, look, this guy was Big East tournament most outstanding player, 2 years ago now? And this new staff just refused to give him any sort of respect. And sure, that could have been him thinking that, he deserved a little more, which he probably did. But this guy was the only player who truly had bought in. I remember when they had won, right after the game, he was sitting in his hotel room with that most outstanding player trophy, and he'd gone live and on Instagram, and he was saying, I love this place. I'm never leaving. And then it was basically the coaching staff and the people that surrounded the program that just made this guy hate it.
He's their leading fucking scorer last year. He averaged almost 12 points a game.
That's
the thing that's crazy. I mean, just go down the fucking list. Brandon Murray was a guy that, when we were looking at transfers, that was a guy I was hoping we were going to be in.
Yeah.
He's 6'5". He defends like a motherfucker. He's long. Used to.
Hey. So HotBalls. I'll put it this way: Brendan Murray is an immensely talented basketball player, but there are times, and this could be because this team isn't playing well, but even at the beginning of the season when they had some kind of hope, you would see him taking plays off. And he's a great defender. At least he was a great defender last year because he was surrounded by great defenders, and that helps. But you see what this guy can do. Amazing things on both ends of the court. Some of these blocks are just absurd, but this staff and this program has failed to get these players to buy in. And so you get these guys like Brendan Murray, who are insane, taking plays off, basically giving up is the way I'll put it. It's a little disheartening from the fans' perspective.
Well, it sucks, but when your coaches don't know what the fuck they're doing, it's hard to get excited. Qudus Wahab was arguably the best freshman big in the conference 2 years ago. Ryan Mutombo was a top 100 guy out of school. Bryson Mazzone, okay, might have been a miss in the transfer portal. That's going to happen. But Jay Heath, he's 1,000 had scored 1,000 career points heading into this year. We already talked about Brandon Murray. Primo Spears can obviously play, right? Even Denver Anglin, top 100 guy.
It's
and even some of the throwaway guys like Dante Bass and fucking,
he's a beast.
Ezewiro are kind of sleeper dudes. Not guys I don't think that would have made much of an impact this year, but those could be guys in a year or two. They become pieces. And so to me with Patrick, and again, I'm really less worried about the coaching bungles and not winning games, although that's really important. But like, I'm more concerned with the never-ending rotating door of not just players, but like top 100 guys. Like, recruiting hasn't been the issue for Patrick on any level. Like, I really think you could probably build. I'm not even kidding. Maybe I'm getting carried away when I say this. I think you could potentially build like a team with a chance to get to a Final Four out of just guys that Patrick Ewing has lost.
Absolutely.
Like with a good coach, you get enough of those pieces that would have a team. I don't know, national title, but we're Final Four, second weekend team at least within the last
McClung
4
and
years.
James Akinjo.
James Akinjo, fucking
McClung was ridiculous. Yeah,
you know what it is.
Has come in. It just runs right out the door. And
I'll ask you a question. If you were a uber talented basketball player, athlete, whatever, and you come into a program where your coach, so the guy that really sticks out to me on this current roster that is just getting zero respect. So I love Denver England, but he's young and you could tell that he has a lot of room to grow, but he could be very good. But it's Jordan Riley is the name. And this guy is this team's their best defender, best athlete. This guy can jump. There were times early in the non-conference.
He was out all last year, wasn't he? He was
out all last year, and it took him a second. But once he got in, there were a couple of times where he's like, I think 6'4", maybe, and he would be going up for rebounds, and he would get eye level with the rim. And he would defend like it's nobody's business. He would bring energy. And, okay, he got a little banged up a couple games ago. He had twisted an ankle in practice, and he was out for, I think, 2 games. And he has not seen the floor since. Or he might have, but he's maybe gotten a couple minutes. And this guy, this is the type of player. So his senior year, he was the New York Gatorade Player of the Year in high school. And I lived just a couple miles away from him, and I'd seen him play, and he was an animal. And these are the kinds of guys that you build a program around. And Patrick Ewing is basically giving this man the middle finger. Why? I don't know. But it's like, this guy can come in and make an immediate impact, and Patrick Ewing still plays Brendan Murray and Primo Spears, who are great players, 35 minutes a night. It's like certain things just don't add up. And it's less in-game and more just a bigger picture program building that this program just can't seem to get right.
In terms of the matter at hand, you do have you mentioned him, one of my favorite players to watch in the Big East is Primo Spears. It's his homecoming tomorrow. Over under 22 shots. I think
over.
Yeah, like 25 probably. Just bombs away. What else is there?
He can get baskets like it's nobody's business. I've seen few players since I really became a Georgetown fan, 8 years ago now, get baskets like this guy. And he's more of an individual player. One of my big things coming into the season was how he could distribute the ball as a point guard. And like you look at him last year, he was on a very bad team, and he was forced to put up, over 20 shots and basically be the entire offense. And he came into this much more talented roster doing the same exact thing. And the guy can score. So I was at I had just gotten back from a study abroad, and I went right down to D.C. to watch them play South Carolina. And they were up all game until the second half when they did the classic Georgetown just blow up. They made it a game against a very bad team. They let Gigi Jackson get right back into it. They were trailing by 1 with seconds left. And he walks down the floor, makes a nice crossover, crosses up his defender, gets to the free throw line, and just got a beautiful little touch off the rim. And it was gorgeous to go up 1. Of course, they end up losing the game because why wouldn't they? But, he's a great player. And it's amazing how it's been, again, this revolving door of these really good players who can be insanely good pieces that will come for a year and be like, I'm too good for this place. And rightfully so, they are.
Yeah, he kind of unfortunately has the feel of a guy who might play for 4 schools in 4 years. But no, Primo Spears, Donovan Clingan, a couple of Central Connecticut public high school kids having pretty nice college careers. Maybe that's the new market in efficiency hotballs. Jared and I are going to go scout the Conard Hall game, see if we can find somebody for Cody to fill the roster.
Oh, no,
at
Hurley,
Seton
we already
Hall.
got one. We already got a Connecticut guy.
Which one do you have now?
We have Isaiah Watts, bro.
Sorry, apologies. But
Zero star.
Armin, I don't want to be mean. I mean, obviously, I don't think the expectations are high for them. Like, what do you even look for? Like, on your side?
Nothing. I'll tell you right now, when UConn comes to DC in February, Thompson's Towel is going to be staging a little protest with the students, or at least we're going to try, and we're going to get everybody to raise kind of signs that say "Save Georgetown Basketball," because that's it. Like, we're not looking.
I don't think you should wait. I think it's great that you're doing that, but that's like 15 games away.
Yeah, I know. We looked at the schedule, and it's our first weekend game, and so I'll let you in on the little Georgetown student how we do things around basketball games. Is people only show up on the weekends because there's a bar right across the street, Rocket Bar, amazing divey pool hall that people go to games to go to Rocket Bar because Capital One is so far away from campus. It's a great excuse to get down there. So students will show up, and that's the only game students will really show up to. So that's why we're doing it then. If I could do it, January 15th when students are back on campus, believe me, I would. But I'll say there have been a couple of games that, Fox Sports and CBS have picked up where they'll post like pictures of our student section. I don't know, 20 students. And granted, again, we're not a huge school and it's far away, and I get it. And when we're going to get killed, it's whatever. But like, no, at no point could you tell me Georgetown basketball should be getting less than even 200 students to show up to a game.
Well, this is a arena nerd question for me. I know they won't. First of all, I know because they have the deal with Capital One. I know they're not moving and all that. But just in terms of locale, for like a game against freaking like Southeast Louisiana or something, is the Monumental Sports Arena closer to campus?
No, it's further. Actually, I don't know if you remember. I think it was last year.
That would be a great place for you guys to pack out
amazing. I think it like seats 10,000 people. It's small. It's brand new. It's exactly what this team needs, but it's all the way southeast. We're northwest. It's far. But our women's team did play there against actually UConn last year. Of course, nobody went. It's so far away, nobody went. But I mean, it would be great. Look, I'll give you what we know about the Cap One deal. Basically, it costs the school $200,000 to $300,000 a game to rent out.
Jesus Christ!
And the team doesn't get any money from concessions or parking.
Yep, been there. Oh man, that's so prohibitively. Like even the UConn deal they negotiated off of, UConn was paying $50,000 for the XL, not $200,000. Oh my God, and I believe it.
That seems high to me. I mean, I know the worst lease that I know of is AIC's deal, the Springfield Civic Center, or the Mass Mutual Center rather, which they're paying something like, I'm not even joking, it's almost like 20-25 grand a game, which for AIC is like,
well, so
it's like UConn playing $1 million a game for the fucking Civic Center.
Well,
and then they get
them and the hockey program in Atlantic Hockey.
Well, so. They don't get sponsorship, they don't get dasher boards, they don't get concessions, they don't get parking. Like they get just whatever's on the video board, and sponsorship revenue back, which is atrocious. Like there's no value to that. So like that's the worst one I've heard.
So it's Monumental Sports, who owns Capital One, is owned by this guy Ted Leonsis, who's a big Georgetown booster. He's a Georgetown alum, And at the time of the deal, it was all like, oh, Ted gave us this great deal on Capital One Arena. And even if you look back when Georgetown played, when they were good, when they played at these big arenas, back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they would maybe get 5 or 6 sellouts a year. And even that would be a good year. It would be, look, this team has never filled up an arena like that. And now that they haven't won a real game in, a year and a half, it's just making it worse.
It's not having the second option that really is the killer. Like, at least St. John's is Carnesecca. Like, it's so hard. Like, even if they would have to be like 80s white hot. Even when even the Iverson years, they weren't really filling the Capitol Center as often.
Yeah, you're gonna get $10,000. You're gonna get 10,000 in that arena for Georgetown basketball when you're good consistently, right?
Well, when they were good, they would get, call it 15 for an arena that seats 20 plus.
Still, I mean, that's 200,000 in live gate revenue a game, right? Give or take, in profit, right? So you're looking at about $400,000, assuming you're selling your tickets around like $30 a pop, right? And obviously, some are a little bit more, some are a little bit less, but yeah, it's still fucking wild though. $200,000 a whack for that arena is insane.
And for me, it's really it's the sort of stuff that we have. It's like the stuff that you're losing out on. You're not getting parking. You're not getting concessions. Like, that, especially if you get the kind of crowd you want. Like, even if, say, something weird happened and like they got 15,000 for UConn, yeah, that's great. But Ted's doing pretty well on the parking and concessions in that situation, and that's money you're missing out on anyway.
Ted's doing great.
Yeah, the guy's gonna buy the Orioles just for the hell of it, or the Nats.
No, he's trying to buy the Nationals actually right now. Nationals is priority number 1 on Ted Johnson's list. He already owns the Capitals and the Wizards.
I was gonna say, I know he already owns some teams, but even at the XL Center, I mean, we get, obviously with all the sponsorship and everything, dasher boards, all that stuff's the stuff that really, wets the whistle, so to speak, and allows you to drive revenue.
We don't get any of that.
Huh?
We don't get that at the XL Center.
No, I mean, we're not getting concessions and shit. No.
Right, UConn. Well, I've said this before, but Armin, like, every ad at the XL Center for a UConn game is for Coca-Cola, because UConn is a Coca-Cola, and the XL Center only serves Pepsi.
It's
hilarious. I realized it last year, and I can't stop thinking about.
That's my favorite Hartford feature.
This is so stupid, like so aggressively stupid. But at least we can talk about Gamble. Full 40 can talk about the DuPont Pavilion. St. John's can talk about Carnesecca. Seton Hall can pretend that Walsh Gym at least is like kind of functional.
McDonough still has a payphone from, what is it? I mean, it has to be from at least the 80s, maybe older. That place hasn't been touched, and we did a really good article. One of our contributors last year, Thompson's held an article last year about how they could rearrange the arena there, and the most you can get in that is like 7,000 seats, which isn't much, but it's better than the 2,000 it seats right now. And so last year was not last year, 2 years during the COVID year when they were there. It was this big joke that one side would consistently see better shooting numbers than the other, and people were speculating. Awesome. People were speculating that one of the rims was actually like off or bent a little bit, or like just arranged slightly like off kilter. So one side would just get such better numbers. And even after the game last year, we played against St. John's there. Patrick Ewing was like, I don't want to see this fucking place again. Like, I hate this place.
Well, Armin, to be clear, everything you just said, I know it won't happen. Everything you just said is exactly why they should play there.
Exactly.
If they played in that place and it was 6,000 seats and people are freaked out because one rim is bent or something, that place, no matter how bad Georgetown is, will be an absolute bear pit to have to deal with. As it is now, the team's a joke, and when you're going on the road, you're just playing in a big, like, empty refrigerator. And
when we played there last year against St. John's, the cap capacity at 50% because they were still pretty strict on COVID, and it was mostly students other than the St. John's fans that got to show up from the team tickets. And okay, again, students don't really care, but when you're playing literally maybe 100 yards away from the dining hall, people showed up. And it got loud, even though we sucked and we lost the game in, horrible fashion. People showed up and we had a great time. Like, they ran promotions with us. Like, I remember, so what now the assistant coach, he was a assistant to the coach last year, this guy Clinton Crouch, who's amazing. He hid player cards under a couple of the bleachers, and if you had that card, you got to go out to lunch with Patrick Ewing, and Dante Harris was there, and I got one of the cards, and one of my friends got one of the cards, and it was so cool. Like, people were talking about it. Like, it was stuff that actually got people to show up. But when you have to ride on a bus through rush hour traffic to get to an arena that's 10% full to watch a team lose by 20 points, I mean, no shit, no one shows up.
Armin, I don't mean to say this as like a bad thing, but it's just like, it's kind of like, this might come out wrong, but it's kind of sad to hear that, as, when we're talking about a program like Georgetown, that, they're running these promotions, this arena's like right on campus and they have to do that kind of stuff to get people to go there. Because honestly, like, locally for us, it sounds like the kind of thing you'd hear at the University of Hartford. Well, and so it's just like
one difference I'll say is, what's the enrollment at UConn?
Oh, it's like 20-something thousand.
Yeah, and how many seats let's just say, how many student tickets do you know are given out on any given for a game?
Oh, thousands. Like,
yeah, so we have an enrollment of just about 7,000 students, half of whom don't even know what basketball is.
Right.
And our student section maybe will seat 1,000 at most, not even, probably 500 if they open both student sections up. Like, we're not I think you guys could probably fill an arena just with students. We couldn't. And that's just because we're a smaller school and we don't have as many people who know. But, like, if they worked hard to do it, and look, I've had some great conversations with some of the marketing people within the program and just the athletic department in general, and they're trying, but they really need to commit to it. And the first step in that is bringing a team that can win, at least make it competitive. Because for the South Carolina game, okay, I get it, South Carolina sucks, but it was a weekend and students showed up and people were having a good time because we were playing good basketball for 25 minutes and we lost, but people still had a good time doing it. And like they just need to commit to figuring out how to win first of all, and I promise you people will show up.
Yeah, and no, please, like, what I said may have come out the wrong way. And what I'm trying to say is, like, comparing it to the University of Hartford, it's a very, very small school up here, actually going down to Division III from Division I next year. But what I'm trying to say is, like, Georgetown is, when I think of Georgetown, I think about when I was in school and it was a perennial top 10 team, Final Four contender, and obviously the storied program that it is. So to hear that there's these kind of issues and hear that it's hard to get people to the games. Like, I know it's a prestigious school for things way bigger than basketball, but it's just like, it's kind of like, it blows the mind to hear things like that.
Oh, no, you're not wrong. Not wrong at all. Like,
it blows your mind. Imagine being a guy who is 40 plus years old. Fucking
yeah,
like,
definitely.
I mean, the equivalent for guys that are younger in this chat. Like, imagine. And I'm not kidding, because I'd say in their heyday, Georgetown may have been a bigger brand than Duke.
Oh, like, we were a blue blood.
Like,
Georgetown was a blue blood from mid 80s.
But you weren't just a blue blood. Like, you were the fucking coolest basketball program on planet Earth. Like, anybody that grew up in the inner city wanted to play for fucking Georgetown.
I'll tell you.
I was just joking that Above the Rim game, Above the Rim movie I just watched, like, it's basically a gigantic advertisement for Georgetown University basketball. And so, like, imagine Duke was drawing like fucking 20 people to Cameron Indoor Stadium, and they hired Christian Leitner to fucking coach them. He couldn't do anything or keep any players. Right? Like, that's what it is. I mean, that would be the equivalent. Or North Carolina, just nobody going, nobody paying attention, and fucking Jerry Stackhouse coaching them into oblivion.
Meanwhile, Armin's got to see that when you published, I think it was you guys, got that transcript of the school president explaining to a room full of people how college athletics works like they have no idea. I don't know. My head would have exploded if I were you. I would have absolutely lost my mind reading that.
That's how the conversation started here. We were
sorry.
Yeah. No, but
coming from DeJoya, who is or was the chairman of the board of governors of the NCAA, and like in that he said, if anyone deserves our backing, it's Patrick Ewing, after he hasn't won, a meaningful game in a year and a half. Like shut up, please. I beg you.
This is him resigning, right? Is that how we see this? I think my vibe is he will step away.
Well, this is how we started the conversation before you got here, was like, how do you take those, because Meghan was in here, and so I said, how do you take those comments? Do you take those as Georgetown quietly quitting on college sports, like some other academic institutions have decided to do in major conferences recently? Or is it the old infamous GM giving, the baseball manager the vote of confidence 2 weeks before he throws him in the garbage can?
Which is very possible. I mean,
which is very possible too. Like, it could be both of those.
It's very sad. It's very sad. Lou Orr, died a couple days ago.
Right.
And
you got to give him space. You can't be doing any sort
of
stuff
it's
now.
not even that. Like, when Patrick joined, as head coach, Lou Orr was the guy who he was extremely close with, who had college coaching experience, who he basically brought in as obviously not 1A, 1B, but like a very close number 2 man.
Yeah, he was like Larry Brown was for Penny.
And look, I'm not going to say like that's going to make Patrick Ewing a little less interested, but it was nice having him around. And okay, so the two things are, so coming from the student kind of perspective, the two things, or the thing that's been consistent in the last 2 coaching changes at Georgetown, have been the students making their voices heard, right? Which is why I do want to try to get some student voices out there. But it's not fire Patrick Ewing, because you cannot do that to Patrick Ewing. We love Patrick Ewing as a person, as a player, but he's not a great coach. And there's a way for this program where Patrick Ewing is a part of it. And I'll say that cautiously, because you just don't want to go down a Chris Mullen path where you have him as a coach, it's an utter disaster, and then all of a sudden, like, you don't hear from this guy with relation to your program. So what we really want to see is, like, if he gets fired, I think the number is like $11 or $12 million that he's owed, and we don't think the school can handle that. Endowment or not, the program just can't handle that much lost money. I'm sure they'll figure it out, but you can't fire him. It's more of a PR thing than anything. So most likely, if it were to happen, it would be a total, just like, Patrick Ewing loses interest in coaching. He steps down. They figure out someone, Rick Pitino, to step in and take over in some respect for a couple of years, get the program back right. And then you get a guy, young, possibly local, who understands the scene, to come in and really just kind of build the program for, long term, have someone come in and build the program.
Armin, who are you? I mean, you said Pitino, obviously, but like, is there besides that, because we've talked a lot on here about your program and stuff, like on our spaces, like, who's a local, like, it's an amazing talent area, we know that, but who's a coach locally besides Pitino that you guys be like?
So there are a couple who have been, good coaches there who understand it. Mike Jones is a name who I really like. He came into DeMatha when they were kind of in a lull, call it. They were not the best, or obviously they've been very good for a very long time, but not the best by DeMatha standards. And he rebuilt them to a certain extent. That's a name that I really love. I mean, Kim English, who's at George Mason right now, I think he's a great personality. He hasn't really proven himself as a coach yet. But I'd say those are the two names that I would really look out for. I love this guy, Clinton Crouch, that I spoke about, but I don't know if he's got a head coaching gig at that scale that soon, in his future. He could definitely do it one day, but I don't know if he could be a head coach for Georgetown yet. But I'd say it's Mike Jones, or distant second would be Kim English.
So that's a no on Dixon?
I don't think so.
I know. I wouldn't know. So. I mean, he's at an impossible school, but yeah, no, that'd be a no.
Yes.
No, that's good. Thank you, because I've been wondering, and it's like I don't know. So it's good to get a local perspective, and you guys are doing great work, and God bless you, because it can't be fun. I mean, what you're going through
it's been rough trying to get people to remain interested. Like at Thompson Cal, we have we're now 6 really good contributors, and they just have no writing. And to be honest, I don't blame them.
Hey, Hurley, can I just jump in for a second? I have a question for Armin.
Yeah, go nuts.
So first of all, Armin, you're really good at this. I am very sparing with. I am very I don't praise a lot of people on the internet, on the college basketball internet. I praise the 2 hosts of this show, and you're one of 6 other people in the country who's really good.
Thank you.
So I always learn when I listen to you.
I appreciate that.
Secondly, especially for your age, you're just. Secondly, you probably don't know this, and I want to talk to you more offline, because
absolutely,
I'm doing I did a big coaching search thing last year. That's my only claim to fame on the college basketball internet, and which is a weird combo of analysis and cyberbullying of the forces the powers that be to get what you want. And I'm going to say from far, just looking at my sister-in-law went to Georgetown. I'm very familiar with my niece was baptized there. I know the scene there a little bit, not well enough, but I spent time there in college. And one summer I lived in DC, 07, the Jeff Green year. I get Georgetown, and that's the school I kind of want to do this year for the search. And if I do a show this year, and so there's a lot I want to learn about it from you, but I also want to say to you that I completely respect. I get it. I'm a Knicks fan. He was one of my favorite players growing up. Patrick Ewing's probably in his 60s now, right? And
late 50s, but yeah.
And as much as he is a meaningful contributor, a massive contributor to the importance of that institution, and that should be honored, as you've said. This is not a borderline deal. You as fans you owe him you're 100% right. You don't want to say fire Ewing. I get it. It's smart that you're mindful about the optics. But from what I've seen following that program from afar with the JT3 stuff and just institutionally, they are very averse to making moves, and they're gonna have to be they may end up having to be pushed harder than you'd feel comfortable pushing. And make no mistake, if you push, you're gonna get pushed back from, and you're gonna get gaslit and kind of guilt tripped, and that's bullshit. Everyone here can see how much you care and how much you want your school to be good, and as long as you pursue the tack you're doing now, I would up the ante a little in terms of the tenor of your again, not doesn't mean that you have to cross any lines, and it's hard to manage that, but I don't understand how Patrick Ewing is still, even given his history, it's really bad. Like this is not like, I've seen a lot of coaches fired, and like this is not a like, oh, another 6-12 Big East season, right? Like this is like teetering on the brink of just, and if the school, at the very least, whatever you pursue should reveal what, like, should get you answers to whether the school's committed at all. The Hotball said the quiet quitting thing, and if that's in fact the case, that's fine. You just have to get that answer. And the last thing I wanted to say, because I've been fascinated by this, so I poked around and talked to some sources around college basketball, and what I've been told is that while the school is essentially a Patriot League athletic department in all respects, just in terms of the operations and the resources and whatever, they, in everything but basketball, they still, at least at a budgetary level, take basketball at a Big East level of seriousness. And so, provided that remains the case, like, you're just going to have to maybe get a little uncomfortable, because, like, if you want what you want, and I think you're right to want it, like, it may not be as, it's obviously not as commonsensical to the powers that be over there, or it would have already happened.
So, like, I don't know, I don't know how to best pursue this kind of things, but I have two little stories. But let Aiden Hilltops Hoops talk about the operation side of it, because he's very good. But first, let me tell you these stories about how I might have crossed the line once and how I might cross the line again. But
dude, you're like 21. You should cross the line like every other week. But carry on.
You don't need to know. I don't need to tell those stories. But when it comes to basketball, last year, actually against UConn last year at Georgetown, so it's a Big East game, and I showed up to the arena with a paper bag and put a paper bag over my head while we were playing, and there were all of 20 students in that student section. Got a little bit of traction, but didn't really do much. But
that was the only time I saw anything Georgetown related last year. So kudos.
Yeah. So I did that, and literally all I had written on the paper bag was just "please help," and I was approached by. So
I saw this. This was the only time you've got on my radar other than your record.
So yeah. I wrote this "please help," and I was friends with the people who head up the students, and when I first put it on, they were like, "Dude, you can't do this," and I was like, "I don't care." Then next, I was approached by a security guard who was like, "Either you take it off or I'm taking it," and I'm like, "You can't take it. I'm not doing anything bad." And the guy basically said like, I'm not gonna. I don't know the exact quote or what exactly he said, but he was basically like in the program they don't really like this, and like they don't appreciate these kinds of things.
This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say gaslit. Like, this is super common. Keep going.
So they dropped the name of Ronnie Thompson, who's the chief of staff for the program, and they end up taking the bag while I was out grabbing a beer, and I was not happy about that, and it got like the old heads were really like proud of me on the chat boards. They're all really proud of me, and I never actually told them who I was. And I hope you guys, actually I don't really care, but like that was the first time where I was like, damn, this program could not care less. And
anonymous Twitter characters tend to have a lot of success. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and so I this year, and this is what I'm kind of planning on doing, but my girlfriend works with the admissions office, and Jack DeJoya is doing like a dinner with them, like a little cocktail hour, whatever. And obviously, I'm gonna go, and I kind of want to go up to Jack and just be like, "So, do you really care?" And like, while I think I might never get a media pass again, also I think it might be the right thing to do.
Media passes are extremely overrated and uncool. Access is wildly overrated. Winning is cool.
I say the best part of getting those media passes is like the shitty like preheated Chick-fil-A that they give us sometimes. Or usually it's Panera, and who cares about Panera? But it's like I think I need to do something. But we're planning, like, we're gonna have a bunch of articles come out in the next few weeks about like basically what a train wreck this is and like how we need a new coach and who we could look for and stuff like that. Hopefully that'll get some eyeballs, and then we're gonna try and do our little protest. But like, as for the operations, I have no clue what's going on because they're so secretive. They run it. You're right. They run it like a Patriot League athletic department where they don't want to be covered. And I really want to give Aiden a chance to speak here. So Aiden, chime in whenever you want, because I know you've got better insights, and I don't want to call them better experiences.
When you say they don't want to be covered, you're right. And what you have to understand is sometimes as fans, and it took me many, many years to understand this, incentives for fans and incentives for administrators are just simply not aligned all of the time. They can be when convenient, right? But and if you're an administrator and you've signed up for that, like, you are first and foremost in the business of maintaining your job, as any professional is in any job, right? Fans are able to exist as, you want to call them irrational creatures or overly demanding or whatever, fine. But passion, like, exists on a different axis than administration does. That's just a fundamental reality. And so sometimes I've had the challenge with, like, our AD at UMass and our head coach right now, frankly, who, because of relative size of our program, I have some interaction with, of like explaining that, no, I don't have an ulterior motive here. In fact, this is the only pure thing about me. Every other part of life when you get older is compromised. You got work, you got kids, you got marriage. So this is actually exceedingly simple. You win basketball games, I pay money to see the team and get to support the NIL and all these other things, and I'm happy. That's it. And if you stray from that, you're already marching on the administrator's turf, right? It's not complicated. You don't have to be a dick. You're not being an asshole. In fact, you're just being a very, very straightforward. You're like, hey, I care about this. I want it to win. It increases my happiness in life. Life is short. If you're told that's irrational or whatever, fine, but you're fully coming from it in good faith, and anything from there is in service of the program. Now, you don't want to scream at kids. Like, there's certain lines, but you're a smart guy. You understand that. And beyond that, don't let them gaslight you, because they hate that someone there could possibly care more about success than they do. And the reality is you do, because success for them is keeping their job and hopefully getting some wins on the side. And that's fine. I'm not knocking it. It's just a different incentive structure.
No, I think that at a certain point, they forget that we're both on the same team, but whereas they get paid for it, we have to pay. And I always say this to my friends, like, my mental health is way too dependent on a bunch of, 18, 19,
Same.
20, and 21-year-olds putting a ball through a hoop.
Yeah, but guess what? You're right, and it's fucked up, and it's like, I wish I could, take it. That cat's been out of the bag since I was like 8, and the reality is, like, salaries as ADs and whatnot are dependent on the existence of people like you, and ultimately, if all of you cease to exist or become so marginalized as to be irrelevant, then their whole gig. And that's why I was asking, like, if they want to be a Patriot League department, they should just join the Patriot League. Like, that should be the demand, because, that's a nice level of play. And if they want to be the 16 seed every 6 years and go and get thumped, that's Georgetown's right. But make them say that. Like, force them to explain what their goals are here. And it's not, and I'll connect you to a couple of Georgetown related people that can help with this, if you DM me.
Definitely.
If I could just chime in here, and sorry to butt in, Armin, but I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Go for it, Aiden.
Curry, I hear you on all of that, and I think Armin, myself, and a couple other people have tried to hold their feet to the fire and have tried to make them, try to hold them accountable for these things. But there is no media access. There is no, like, I've put in multiple requests to the athletic administration, like, everything gets turned down, so it's very tough.
Well, all the more reason why you got to stop playing ball with them, right? Like, because that's the thing, is, like, if they have something to hold over your head. And again, it's sad that it comes to this and becomes all adversarial, but it's like, some of this is just, they don't read the room. They're a little too self-involved, too self-serious. This, by the way, everything you're describing is like, exceedingly common at a million places. It's happened. There's nothing new under the sun in college athletics. It's all, you follow this shit long enough. This is not, Silicon Valley, right? And ultimately, once they sort of fail to give you any of the conventional forms of respect or access or whatever, and you just have to go a little rogue. And like, again, it's like, you guys are smart, you get it, you're not gonna. And the problem is, what'll happen is there'll be someone in the fan base who's a shithead and says something bad, and then the Georgetown administrators will do what every administrator always does, and they'll come out and they'll go, well, this is just too far. This is inappropriate. Whatever. I understand people are passionate, but and they'll try to use the worst thing that anybody ever said against all of you. And you just have to be clear, like, you condemn that. We're distinct from that. However, we also believe fundamentally that, and it's like, you can't apologize for it, because then you're losing.
Yeah, but you mentioned the word passion. Like there's no passion left in this fan base. Like there's no appetite for, Armin mentioned the February, protest that he's planning. I think that's amazing, but I don't know how much attention it's going to get, because the fan base is dead for.
So that's an interesting thing, because I have a guy I know in New York who's like a big Georgetown guy, and I always am trying to ascertain that piece of the equation. I'm like, why don't you guys have, and I think, like, frankly, as Georgetown's gotten better and better academically over the last really 30, 40 years, it was always good, but like, it was not nearly as hard to get into in the 80s as it is today. And your alumni base has become so national, right? And you've sucked and therefore lost the DC base. And that started as early as probably the early aughts, when Maryland won a national title and some of those fans migrated over there. But, you stayed relevant for a while. You've lost DC, it seems. Like, I've been down there several times a year, and like, it doesn't feel like Georgetown play. And like, my sister-in-law went there. I asked her, like, nobody gives a shit in the city. So that's hard. But that's all the more reason why, like, whatever is left of you has got to shoot your shot, because like, and frankly, one thing that weirdly does benefit Georgetown is that a lot of the people who cover the sport, we talked about this summer, but came up at a time when Georgetown was really relevant. And like, the second you guys got it going in that sort of gimmicky Big East tournament run a couple years ago, which ended up being the worst thing to happen to your program in some ways, but the fucking media was going gaga, like, and the Georgetown people were coming out of the woodwork, and like, now it's going to be hard to rebuild that like DC casual base, because they're only going to come when you win, and that just is what it is. You have to have sustained success, but you have enough alums out there that will eventually take notice. And what I would do if I were you is think about this less as like a general audience thing, and think about it as like an audience of 10. Whether it's an audience of 10 is, who are your biggest basketball donors? Who has a little bit of say over, who can get to the, like, you can do that research, and ultimately whatever communications you create, target them at that group rather than at the generic masses, because there's 363 teams in college basketball, and it's a sport that people in the country only pay attention to for 3 weeks, other than sickos like us on here. So you have to basically like figure out how to get your message in front of the 10 people that can actually help you get something done.
Yeah, the message has been, I know a lot of donors, both like the bigger donors and smaller donors, like they are all pulling their sword, and the couple that are left are like the program loyalists who will not stop donating. So like this program operationally, like they're not getting the money, whether it be from the arena, whether it be from donors. Like I don't understand how. It's because of the $11 million buyout for Ewing that he's still hanging around. But like,
what about Leonisis or whatever? Like, the guy went to the school and he owns the arena. Like, is he not engaged?
He's not. The guy to watch is Frank McCourt, the old Dodgers owner.
Yeah, Boston real estate guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was. I think he's off the board of directors now, but he's still involved. And so the hope is that he can eventually become convinced to fund part or most of the buyout for Ewing. I know there have been some discussions there, but yeah,
so no bullshit. Real estate guys tend to be a little bit entrepreneurial and a little bit outside the box. he's not as hard to contact as you probably think. Hit him up with a really thoughtful little note, 3 paragraphs. Tell him you'd like to talk. Probably 85% chance it goes nowhere, but he'll probably read it. Very few people are as inaccessible as college kids would think they are. And that's a lesson that you should learn now because you know what? Just putting the bug in it's a little bit of Inception, right? You got to just put it in his ear. Make it so then like when the article does come out later on, um, it's like already been planted. And maybe it already has been, but it's like he's dealing with a million things. He's probably developing a million waterfront fucking hotels and whatever he's doing. And like, this is like, but he's also in his 60s, maybe early 70s, and he's thinking about his legacy. And you can play into that with a smart, well written note that just may, take an hour of your time and you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, from everything that I see and from what I hear, like, I mean, this program is on an island. I mean, they are completely isolated at this point. Like, everyone is fed up. I mean, their donations in general to the university are down, and I know people in administration, and they're saying, like, a lot of people are like, we're not going to donate to the university in general until you make a change of head coach, and they're currently undergoing a major fundraising campaign for the school. So it's just not sustainable for them, and they're on an island. So I don't know.
That's good. It's just so weird though,
because
the argument there for years has been like, well, I can't fire Ewing because the alumni base would mutiny. Who? They're all fucking pulling their donations. Who the fuck are we even talking about?
Yeah, and Sage and I, we know this as Knicks fans. Like for years and years and years, the stupid argument that was made was, well, the Knicks can't rebuild. The Knicks can't do a rebuild. And Knicks fans were like, who's saying that? If Jim Dolan doesn't want to do a rebuild, that's a completely different statement than what's being said. And the Knicks right now are a completely average, middle-of-the-road NBA team, and it's fabulous because they're not doing anything stupid. There's no expectations, but they're not going to be embarrassing. They're just there. And they might eventually be okay at some point because they're not going out there and shooting themselves in the salary cap hell and trading away 19 draft picks to try and become the 5 seed. There's a real misconception around stuff like that. People, it's just so easy to say it. I don't like who. No saying Patrick Ewing is banned from campus. I don't think anybody can look at this and say, maybe he shouldn't be the coach.
You're not firing him after like an 8-10 Big East season or something where they like had a couple close losses and just missed the NIT. Like you're fucking losing or barely or almost losing to like Coppin State, who's playing like the second, their second straight game in like 2 nights after like taking a bus from like the South. I mean, it's like this is not like this is not.
If he goes 2-38 across 2 seasons in the Big East,
I was going to say 2-38. If you want to add in the 10 games or so that they lost heading into the Big East tournament, he's like 3-63 or something in his last however many, Big East games. Like this isn't like,
and it's not, and you're
no
not
coach
DePaul.
at any level.
You're not DePaul, and you're not even St. John's. Like Georgetown has had meaningful success. They made a Final Four 15 years ago. I assume. What was the last time you made the tournament? Besides the Patrick Ewing like gimmick year.
That would be my freshman year, so 2015.
Yeah, that's a while, but that's not an eternity by any means.
Yeah, but I mean, they got bounced in the second round that year. Like it's been a while since they've really, really been in the tournament.
But look, it's less the fact that you know what it is. You're just afraid of it turning into a Patrick Ewing. It's not that we're going to hate him on campus. It's the fact that he's not going to want to come to campus. And to be fair, he's your biggest fundraiser. Okay? Like the place that he is suited best is not on the court. It is in the back rooms, making relationships with these big boosters and bringing in more money for this program. And they're just afraid that if they fire him or if they just give him anything other than support, he's never going to want to be seen within 500 miles of Washington, D.C.
I think it goes deeper than that, though. Because there's a legacy there with Thompson Jr. and like there's a perception that like you'd be letting this go away from what built it forever. And you know what? Unfortunately, sometimes it's time
You
for
have to do that, though. We had to let go of the Calhoun years, man. Like,
exactly.
it's just and look. I mean, you can say what you want to say. There's still a sect of UMass fans that live in the Calipari years.
Oh,
on
fucking
repeat.
most of them.
And it's like, it just comes a time where like you have to move past that, and the program for its long-term success and sustainability needs to move past that as well, right? Like you can't be
And
the same
also, if
fucking
you're a
thing all the time.
Georgetown student or a Georgetown alum of the last decade, I mean, really, like the last decade. Like, I am 37. I graduated in 08, not from UMass, by the way. And Patrick Ewing was like my early childhood as a fan, right? Meaning, if you're under 30, Patrick Ewing, like, he doesn't really mean much to you. Now, I'm not. That sounds like appalling to say, but like growing up for me, right? Like when around UMass, it was like Dr. J, the legacy of Dr. J. Dr. J, even more than Patrick Ewing, is like, one of the top 15 players ever, right? Changed the game.
Icon. He's an icon.
An icon of the sport, right? But even by the time I was, watching games in the mid 90s, he had been gone for almost 25 years, right? And I was kind of like, okay, cool. Like, I don't care about Dr. J right now. I'm watching Marcus Camby right now. And like, there's just has to be generational change, because as much as you can tell me stories about Dr. J, and that's awesome, and I respect the history and I watch all, it's like, you got to have something in your life too, right? And like, that's just the passage of time. You can honor your legacy and your past, but it doesn't mean you have to cling to it so stubbornly that you're willing to endure, 3 and 53 or whatever.
Well,
I mean, that's just fucking crazy.
It's damaging the legacy. It's damaging all the value that it would have otherwise, right? Like, the more this goes on, the longer this continues like this, the less valuable that history has, right?
Absolutely.
Because right now they're doing their best to drill it into oblivion. And so, I mean, I don't know. I think, the biggest thing for Georgetown, I mean, that's the whole Thompson thing, like, and I think that's a problem too. I remember reading Athletic Piece, and I don't want to go off on a total tangent, but I know the other Thompson there that's still sticking around in the background is a complete loose cannon and all over the place. And that's a whole
I've heard
that's putting it kindly.
ball of wax. But like, it's time, man. Like, if this isn't bad enough, like what does it need to look like for it to be bad enough? Like, that would be the question that I would ask.
Joining the Ivy League.
If this isn't bad enough, what does?
But see, the Ivy League hasn't expanded in what, like 150 years? No one's joining the Ivy League. You guys want to join the Patriot League? I'm sure they'd take you.
I really don't think, like, they are not going to move to the Patriot League because they need that basketball program.
No, of course. That's what I'm saying.
They're not going to move the Patriot League.
To be clear, that's a rhetorical device on my part to basically say, hey, fucking stop messing around here, right? Because you sometimes just need them to basically, like, you need, what you need to do as a fan is basically force the program to codify its status, right? Like, to declare to the world that this is something we care about and take seriously, and that like some modicum of winning matters. And if they won't do that, then you have to basically say, well, fine, why don't you just join the Patriot League? Because this like weird in between place is just making you worse and worse and more irrelevant. And I think that's like, there has to be a level of like almost national embarrassment. So like, I'm happy to help you. I'm sure HotBalls is. It's like, for your sake, like, I'm just on principle, so you know where I'm coming from. Like, I just want fans who are passionate to win and to have their voices heard. That's my only agenda here. And like, it's maddening to me when, and not all ADs are like this. Many are very much, engaged with their fan bases and they get it, right? I think UConn's pretty much gets it these days. He sees the power of this show for sure. And
and to that end, it's for Armin and for Michael. I think it's Michael, right? Sorry. Aiden. Sorry,
Okay.
not remotely close. Armin and Aiden. It's the realization. I think our ADs, and I've gone off about the hockey arena a million times with us, and he's still here, and I still got tickets. And it's the problem isn't when fans complain or try and get involved. The problem is when they don't want to. That's when you turn into Drexel. Like, the problem isn't the fan that's trying to make change or something. The problem is when you don't have any fans who give a shit at all. You can't have apathy. The minute you have apathy, this turns into G League.
Oh, I mean, we're there. The apathy there.
Like, and Armin, the problem that's crazy to me is, like, you have a fantastic account and you're really insightful on this shit. It's criminal that you have 263 followers, because, to be honest, the school's not going to pay attention to you with 263 followers.
I've honestly, I'll tell you, I've kind of stopped tweeting because people have stopped caring.
But and see, that's them winning. And Hilltop Hoops still has a big voice, so I hope they are using their platform, because it's like when you quit, they win.
I was just going to say this, guys. Do you guys recall 3 years ago? And I don't love giving praise to them, but the Marquette fan base, like all their big accounts wrote like a joint article. Yes. Do you guys recall this?
Mm-hmm. They didn't get Woj out, but it was a thing that I don't think. I was shocked at the effectiveness in a way, because like Woj wasn't doing well, but like Marquette was like, what, 6th in the Big East, 7th. They had just had gone to the NCAA tournament, and all the Marquette was like united together, and they were like, "Hey, we want to be on the record. This actually sucks."
Yeah, they ran him. I mean, look, I don't think it was single-handedly. I think there was probably more there, but to Curry's point, they put it out there. They probably got some people talking about it that the school wasn't previously thinking would be talking about it, and then they had to pay attention.
And also remember, like, you have to create the sort of the turf to change the conditions, right? So really, let's be honest, like, bloggers don't shit unless boosters read them, big boosters, right? Mm-hmm. But eventually, if you put enough shit out there and you're a rabid booster and you read shit all day about your favorite team, as rabid boosters tend to, you're going to find an audience. And now look, they don't, like, I've been blocked by our biggest booster because he's like generationally very different, and he talks to coaches and ADs all the time. So sometimes you're going to lose there, right? Like, some of those guys are going to double down and they're going to stick by their guy because they played golf with him all summer. That's okay. You're going to have to take some losses along the way. You only have to get like most of these programs, there's probably, I don't know, at Georgetown, there's probably 100 money guys, like real money guys, 50 money, whatever it is, right? If 20 of them have the ear of the AD, if 1/5 are like adamant, at a certain point, the AD just wants to keep his fucking job, and he's like, "Shut up, my life's getting too hard. Okay, I'll do it."
Yeah, but the AD at Georgetown does not have power. He is a puppet. Like the guy here that we care about is DeJoy. Like, Lee Reed is not the guy.
I use AD and president somewhat interchangeably, just because at each school it's a little different. But like the administrative side of the house, whoever is calling the shots, and I don't know the particularities of Georgetown, but that's who, if you get the right people in his ear, that's the guy. And then, like, also, if you have, there's got to be a prominent alum. Like, I remember when UMass was falling apart this last time, you had some prominent alums who were just kind of like throwing things out there, and it was like, this isn't cool. Like, is there anyone in your orbit who's like willing to say anything?
I mean, there's like some political people that are on Twitter, like Dan Pfeiffer from Pod Save America. There's like an ABC News Corp, but like no one huge. It's not like Dikembe Mutombo is going to speak up, or like Jeff Green. So, yeah, I mean, there have been some, like, Chris Wright.
What does Iverson think about all this, by the way?
Once he left Georgetown, I mean, he's never really been someone to come back to campus. The last time he was, I believe, was when they opened up the new athletic center back in 2016. So
it would be kind of awesome if Iverson was like, fuck it, and just like made this a thing.
I mean, they've tried to get him to come back and like be around the program, but he's kind of resisted. So, and they're respectful of that. So that's just not going to happen, sadly.
It's kind of
just
wild
he
to
has
me
such
too,
a
'cause
unique national stature even now that like it would totally flip the script.
Oh, totally.
while maybe part of why this has happened at Georgetown is like the guys that you mentioned, like the people they're like political stuff or whatever, but these are people with like million follower accounts. Like UConn, look, it's me and at MisterHotBalls. Like it's the guys who care about Georgetown, even if they're not the athletic guys, they're guys with huge followings.
Yeah,
And
I mean, trust me. Like Dan Pfeiffer was communications director to Barack Obama, and like while I think the Pod Save guys are a little bit toolish, he's got a big, a big account, and like that's the kind of thing that Georgetown has a lot of like self-serious types, right? Who like are on Twitter for sure, political operatives and the like, and like it would 100% start a conversation if you wanted to. That's another guy you can send a thoughtful email to be like, hey, like use your voice here. You know what I mean? Like it's just about how you go about it.
And you think about it, you actually have to flip the script to get the confidence, because after a long day of putting up with real estate bullshit and $1 million deals, what's Frank McCourt want to do? He would love to deal with the Georgia basketball thing. You think Dan Pfeiffer wants to take the 4,000th email about the fucking building the wall today? Like, no, he wants anybody to talk about anything else. That's the perspective you have to hope for. And once, like what Sage said, they've got 100 influential donors. It only takes one, because it's you get out of thinking, you get into thinking it'll never happen because they'll never listen to me, sort of thing. But when you get one of those
You'd
guys
be
to feel the same,
surprised who will listen to you after a couple.
Well,
of
and like
posts.
you know,
and
there's a
also
way like
if they agree with you, it's no longer Armin, a current student, had this idea. It's it's an influential donor's idea, and yeah, you might like the credit, but at the end of the day, you all want the same thing, right? So that's what it's about. You don't need to get 100 donors. If you get one guy who's got an influence, who likes what you're saying and is like, yeah, this is actually really stupid, that's how you get change.
Also look, like at the end of the day, no one is nearly like there's a facade illusion around a lot of this as if it's like the CIA or something, right? Like it's not impenetrable. It's Georgetown basketball. It's been really fucking bad for a decade. It's a bunch of fucking athletic administrators and like this is not, what you're asking for is eternally reasonable. And as long as you're willing to sort of like, the hard thing is like, what we're asking for fundamentally, if you really think about it, as you said, is preposterous. It's midnight. I got to get 2 kids to the school and it's 7 hours. And I'm talking about how to, halfway jokingly, effectively cyber bully athletic administrators into getting a basketball coach so your mental health will improve by seeing a ball go through a rim, right? When you break it down like that, it is completely absurd. But so are most things in life if you really get right down to it. And so like if you care about it, then you got to just at some point like rip the Band-Aid off. Like when I was your age, I was embarrassed to be posting on a UMass message board when I didn't go there and went to, but then you get to an age where you're like, fuck it. This is a thing I've had in my life forever. I care about it. And I have a community of people who also care about it. Why would I let some administrator who's going to be here 6 years before jumping to go to fucking UCF or wherever? Why would I let that person dictate the process here? Like, fuck that. And once you sort of get over it and just stop caring about who gets the credit, you can do a lot more than you think, as cliche as that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I was as optimistic as you are. I've been doing this since 2014, initially as a student, and I mean, just this year, I mean, I've been effectively banned from asking any questions at press conferences, and so it's like
because you're playing. That's playing on their turf, right? Like you're never going to win as a quasi journalist, right? Like fuck that. They're gonna do all this bullshit. They're gonna gaslight you, and they're gonna say like, well, you need to get credentialed. Like fuck that. You're a fan blog. You can do good analysis. The world is capable of seeing it, whether you are called a journalist or not. So just own your. Sounds so. I can't believe I'm saying own your truth, man. Just fucking own your truth.
Well, the other thing, Armin is like, what the fuck? I hate to say it, like, as somebody who had access in the past for shit. Like, what are they going to tell you in that anyway? Like, this thing is so far gone. Like, it's not about the, Primo's last 3 possessions.
So
So
I was sorry to cut you off, but like I was at the beginning of the year scared that if I spoke out negatively, and I tried in the past and I was kind of shot down. I was scared that the program would just like stop giving me the voice. But then a couple weeks ago, they would stop giving me the platform. Sorry, and like I was afraid that I would get blackballed. And then a couple weeks ago, I was like, who cares? Like I'm gonna do what I want, and people are gonna. At least I hope people are gonna hear it, and it's gonna do something more than just like kind of sitting next to the program, like, oh, what do you want me to do next? Like I can be your your little voice of hope and reason, and maybe like something will get better and I'll be happy. Like, no, I don't care. I'm done playing by your rules, and I really do want to try to dig into that, but I am again kind of concerned that there is going to be some pushback. And like I remember I off and on do this podcast with another one of my friends, and like I remember last year when we started, a couple episodes in, my friend who I did it with back then was friends with a couple of people in the department, and they were like, oh yeah, no, like people in the program listened to your podcast and they really enjoyed it. And meanwhile, all we were talking about was the good stuff, which really was not good. And like now I look back at that and it's like, why do I care what they think?
Yeah, like listen, one advantage I had was like I just grew up next to UMass when they were really good, so they can't do anything to me as like an alum or anything like that. But I will say, I mean, you yeah, like that's a concern, right? Like it's a small enough school that if you become the crank, like I don't think they're going to go to the career center or something like that. But certainly if you have a job lined up for next year, then you should just start going wild. And I respect that you put your real name to it. I mean, that's not easy, especially as you get older. So you do have to be mindful of that. But I think, look, you have a paper trail of tweets and blogs and podcasts where you're a sensible, thoughtful person. And in the end, like, although life is not fair, you will be, you are the sane one here. The rest of the world is looking at this from afar and they're like, wait, Georgetown's like 3-50 in their last 50 some odd eight Big East games. Like, how has there not been a change? Like, people get fired now after like a year or two. Not that I'm saying that's cool, but this is beyond like I mean, yeah, like I love college basketball, but like I wouldn't really be offering any of this insight if Patrick Ewing had, because I like Patrick Ewing, if he had any like case to stay.
Yeah, you don't want.
So
I would advise you to. These are is this the administration you want to be? Like, if you're not on the side of these folks, you're probably doing well because their work speaks for itself. So
we got John Kirkgen in here if he wants to chime in, man. We were waiting in the waiting room there for a long time, so I figured I'd let you say your piece.
Oh boy, yeah, Armin's not happy about this. Well, I mean, I don't really have anything to say other than basically what Armin said. I mean, Armin and I pretty much share the same viewpoints, being basically brothers and mothers at birth.
And Georgetown.
Yeah, I mean, we're not covering tomorrow. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be disgusting. I'm going to turn it off after 5 minutes. That might even be generous.
I'm going.
I was tempted to go just because a friend of mine's dad is a UConn alum and was like, hey, why don't you come? And I'm like, I can't stress to you. I would rather sit in a movie theater and watch the new Avatar movie 3 times over than go to that game. Like there's so many things. I love college basketball. Like there's nothing more I love than college basketball, even like non-Georgetown college basketball. There are so many things I'd rather do than go watch that game tomorrow. And my dad was literally one of he was there when we won in 1984. So was Armin's dad. Like, they were the biggest fans. A booster flew out my dad because he was such a big fan to the 1984 national championship game and put him up in a hotel just to go to the game because he was that big of a fan. And it's insane.
Yeah,
it sucks, man.
It's the chance for a diplomatic mission here, Hot Balls. If Armin's going to be in the building, I mean, 2:39 hosting a state dinner. But
hey, I wouldn't. I'd get in the car right now and drive the middle of nowhere that is Connecticut. And
can I
car.
actually get some recommendations on pregame bars to go to for those
it's a
who
gamble game, right?
Yeah.
Bidwell.
It's a short list. Yeah, Bidwell would be the one. Bidwell Tavern, get the wings.
Okay.
I just want you to be happy at least a little bit. So I think that's absolutely the play.
I got a DM just now from someone saying, "Man, this is sad. There's more passion for UMass football than Georgetown hoops."
They've
that's
just
accurate.
beaten it out of you guys, and
it's really bad. Like Georgetown, coolest jerseys when I was a kid. I'm not that old. I mean, like, it's like I'm not 50. I'm not 40. Like, this is like I was in college 15 years ago. Georgetown was cool as shit then.
This conference only works with everybody invested in it, and right now Georgia administration is not invested. I mean, DePaul's admin is invested. They're DePaul, but they're invested. That's why, because like UMass football, you could fall back to the size of the fan base or like the monetary issues. Georgetown, like they're self-created issues, and the people who can fix it just don't give a shit, and it's exhausting, and it's galling, and it's beyond pathetic, and they're trying to beat it out of you.
I like that point too, in the comparison to DePaul, because you might be thinking, oh, DePaul is just being DePaul again. It's not the case at all. They're just like super fucking snake bitten with injuries, but there's actually like an institutional like level of care and effort being put in. Yeah, like but like if you're close enough to like just know that, then you say, okay, DePaul has the pieces to start to put together like 6, 7, 8 win seasons and get back into kind of a relevance factor there. Georgetown literally comes across like it doesn't give a flying fuck.
It doesn't come across that way. They legitimately don't. They don't.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it comes across because it is that way.
Did Hunter Biden go to Georgetown?
He sure did.
Oh, God.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
So did Steve Bannon.
I'm going to work on a creative way of working that into all this.
Yeah. Hunter Biden and Bannon, you get them to come together just for one special thing.
Hey,
not
to
get
political here, but Hunter Biden, in his little leaked emails from his laptop, Tucker Carlson had gotten.
I was just at this.
Yeah, to write an email for a letter for his son to try to get him into Georgetown, and his son didn't get in.
that actually speaks well of the Georgetown administration. Actually, to be fair,
Tucker, maybe that's the play. Maybe you go to Hunter Biden, you offer him a few lines, and you tell him, "Hey, I need you to rip the administration right now."
This is really smart. This is really smart planning by Sage.
No,
you tell.
I mean, are you willing to go so far as to let Tucker's kid into law school in an attempt to get the basketball team good again? Could you imagine if Tucker Carlson, like, that's what's going to kill you?
Email Tucker Carlson and be like,
no,
because
if Tucker Carlson comes out and supports the firing of Patrick Ewing, he will be overtly racist, and you will then have not what you want, because they'll be like, if Tucker Carlson's saying it, then it's obviously wrong, and there'll be a video of Tucker being like, so Patrick Ewing.
That would be the worst thing for Georgetown fans.
The worst thing that could possibly happen. Like,
the only spin you would have
Tucker Carlson to give us a little video of him supporting Patrick Ewing.
Yes. So
this
the only person left with any redeeming qualities in this city is Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, that would be the icing on the cake, the cherry on top.
Put out a video, doctor a video of Patrick Ewing. I mean, doctor a video of Tucker Carlson. Sorry, doctor a video of Tucker Carlson supporting Patrick Ewing, and he'll be gone in 2 seconds.
Armin, we should actually do that.
I believe
John, you're the video editor here.
How much of a freak show can you turn this into?
But that's the thing, like, I guarantee you the social media guy for the fucking Georgetown Athletic Department ain't thinking of that.
He ain't thinking.
You think he's thinking of that? That guy doesn't even know how to spell forward.
That was amazing.
Or guard.
There was so many different.
Or Jagan Moses and Snake.
Hey, so guys, Purdue sucks. Fuck them.
Yeah, no, they're not good. By the way, I have to actually play a sound effect. Which is for the UConn folks here. Utah State lost, so we're down to 5 undefeated. So and Utah State less of a fraud than Purdue. Absolute trash bag.
Well, I mean, you can call it.
Isn't it 4 now?
It's 4. I'm sorry, I can't count. I went to a state school. We're down to 4 undefeated.
It felt good to break out the old baseball bat today. I haven't really gone at somebody. I kind of woke up today. I was like, I want to start a fight. So
I just thought they'd have one account that was good at like the trolling, and they don't. It's kind of stunning.
Yeah, it's really bleak when you encounter a fan base that's just like fucking boring and lame as shit. Like it's just sad.
It was like they woke up this morning and they passed out one talking point, and it was just the strength of their victories in terms of their quad 1 rankings. Like,
well, remember they're all engineers there, so like they're just there's a lacking. You know, look, I wish I was an engineer, but like there's a lack of, not to be stereotypical, but George, you know, it's like Purdue is a very serious type of place. I feel like they're fucking called the Boilermakers.
Yeah, they're boring as shit. And they didn't even.
I mean, it's kind of like Georgetown. Like everyone's just a lawyer at Georgetown.
Jump into the thread to start firing back. They just went into their own little nerd hovels and were like, he's never been to Indiana before. What does he know about us?
Well, actually,
like the Indiana fans did to me.
Actually, the Indianapolis Excerpts drew 11 conventions last year for the mail care. You know, shut the fuck up.
Also, the drum isn't even that big.
It's not.
More, to keep it kind of at home full for that end, like, does Butler have fans online? Like,
no.
We kind of found one this weekend who was real weird, but like...
No, the adopted Sanogo is a dirty player guy. Yeah.
How do they not have any? Like,
Butler has Lucas Harkins, who is phenomenal.
Okay,
he does a good job.
Yeah, Lucas is great, but he's too nice. He needs to... It's got to be somebody.
And he's focused on like the overall, like the bracketology for the conference too, right?
Yeah, but he's a diehard Butler guy. And then Butler has kind of been like that. And then like there's a decent sized Marquette fan base, but they've been just kind of like shut off because their largest account is like embargoed from half of the fucking Big East Twitter. So
I feel like you're part of Big East Twitter until Anonymous Eagle blocks you.
Yeah, right, that's the problem.
I feel like it's an obligation to come on and log on to this stupid app that like that guy blocks you. He'll block you over anything.
I don't know what it is because I can like I made this new account a month ago and I've already been blocked by so many people. But I cannot, no matter what I say, I cannot antagonize Anonymous Eagle. I don't get it.
I wasn't blocked by him for fucking years. Like until like 3-4 months ago, which when you think about it is insane.
Even on my old one,
wild.
Even on my old one, I was trying to goad him. I'm like, oh, this is going to be the day that I'm like trying to like say all this shit about Marquette that I don't mean, and he's just laughing at it and liking all of it. Just like he was like being my friend about it. I'm like,
yeah, but I'm like the equivalent of a terrorist organization on this stupid app in this conference, and like, so the fact that I'm blocked by a lot of people. So like by the fact that didn't happen, that's astonishing. I was really blown away by that.
You know what we need to maybe potentially do as a full-blown conference is just like firebomb Marquette in general as an institution. I
can provide some A10 support for that for sure.
Like, wow, this escalated.
From across Big East Twitter, like, you know the beginning of Iron Man when he fires the Jericho missile and he's like, and it's like, you know, that's how you get, like, you kill everybody. I think we need to just do the Jericho missile of Big East Twitter, because when I talked all that shit the last 2 weeks ago about Cincinnati, and I spelled Cincinnati wrong in the process, I found so many fucking Bearcat fans coming over to be like, "Fuck you!" Like, and I feel like that's how we're gonna draw Marquette out of, you know, from under the shell.
They're like North Korea, man. It's like, no, it's hard to get in. Nobody gets out. Like they're
so that's how
you look at the Big East map, and it's just a fucking blackout. There's like fucking lights around Philadelphia, even stores, DC, nothing. Blackness, sorrow.
Just start pounding, being like Marquette sucks, terrible institution, blah blah blah, and just shit posting them into being like someone's gonna wake up one day, search it, and be like, look at all these people, fuck them, and then all of a sudden they'll be, we'll kind of firebomb them into the fold. That's
loner just sitting in a dorm somewhere. His whole life is going to Marquette basketball games.
How is St. John's Twitter?
St. John's Twitter hates itself more than you think it could.
I like TJ Kavanaugh. He's really good.
Yeah, TJ's fun.
I don't know anyone else on. I mean, I'm not a Big East guy, but I don't know anyone else on St. John's Twitter.
Frank in general is another guy to follow.
That's all they want to do. That's all St. John's Twitter really feels like talking about is firing their coach, whoever it may be, at a particular point in time.
And there's battle lines being drawn as we speak in terms of that.
They want Rick Pitino so badly they can tape his hair
down.
At
least St. John's has enough, like, see, that's the thing about distinguishes St. John's from Georgetown is, like, Georgetown has gotten too good academically now to where they don't want to be...
St. John's has always been St. John's. Yes. Not a lot changes at St. John's. Like, listen, it's the same kind of city school it's always been.
I went to Carnesecca for a game. I live in Manhattan, and I went to Carnesecca for a game like 2-3 years in, and I thought I walked into 1994 New York City. Like, starter jackets, fucking, like, just, it was like, I'm like, was blaring. Everybody's like, they're like, you've got like the old NYPD cars, like
Felipe Lopez jerseys,
you know, like the baby blue uniforms from the cops, like with mustaches and fucking aviators. And
they're driving the little like golf cart like truck things.
And to be fair, it fucking ruled. I was like, I might get tickets to this shit. Like, that was the year they were good. They actually played Marquette. And it was just banged out on like a Saturday night right after New Year's maybe. And the place was rocking. And like, I just feel like they, as delusional as they are, at least these people are like chirping into the wind, you know, like taking their shot.
Yeah, they're really passionate, and I honestly think they're the angriest fan base in the Big East that I've found.
Yes.
And like, they haven't been the worst one, but like, they're just always pissed off. I think deep down they actually love that they can all hate their coach no matter how the team does, which is wild to me.
Which is also very New York.
Yes, absolutely. But like, I don't think Seton Hall was ever like that. I don't know if Cody's still here. Like well, Cody, you're here. I mean,
they were pretty bad with like Orr and
Gonzalez.
Well, Bobby Gonzalez was like the most perfect New York college coach that's ever lived. Like, his sister, like that, off-season idea stage, just recounting Bobby Gonzalez's fall. At least,
I mean, we give Mike Rice a lot of shit, but like Bobby Gonzo was maybe more Gonzo than Rice.
Imagine that whole ending, but in modern day with Twitter. Can you imagine his sister responding to every single shit post on Twitter all day?
It would have been so good, man.
She did that with national reporters in their articles, like with letters and shit.
Gonzo is also part of like one of the greatest video, like media faux pas clips of all time, with the ESPN guy being like, "I wish you good sex in the Big East." It's so good.
All-time great moment.
Oh, God.
I mean, Seton Hall could get really fun under Shaheen Holloway in a couple of years. Just whatever happens, it could just be fun.
If you see like 11 guys that have the attitude of Tay Davis, watch out. Well, otherwise, if you have like Kadari, we're not going anywhere.
Is South Orange Juice still around?
He is.
Oh, yeah, that takes me back. The Anonymous Eagle thing is funny because, like, when we weren't in the Big East, I would still kind of be like, you know, the guy at the foggy window just looking out and missing it. And I interacted with him a lot. We were cool. Then all of a sudden, like, he's banning everyone. And I'm like, not only am I not banned, but I get along with this guy. And I'm like, am I the asshole? Am I the bad guy here? Like,
yes.
The answer is
definitely. The answer is 100% yes.
Gosh, it's amazing like how bad Big East Twitter must have been before UConn Twitter showed up.
Whoa.
No.
I said Big East Twitter because Villanova Twitter and individual schools Twitter is fine, but conference Twitter, because of just the volume of UConn posters, it makes it more interesting.
That's a nice pat on your own back.
I'm a UMass fan. I fucking hate UConn. Except I like UConn on Twitter.
It's nice having other schools in the league with Twitter or
Yeah,
electricity.
you want to know
plumbing.
what sucks and what doesn't even exist? American Athletic Conference Twitter. There's
literally American Athletic Conference Twitter was Fear the Wave blog. That was
awesome.
Fear the Wave blog.
There's got to be Wichita State fans, no?
We couldn't find them.
Not on Twitter.
They don't have cell phones. The most they'll have is flip phones. I mean, geez.
But Wichita State Twitter, are Wichita State fans, match board presence.
They are. It's wild. But Sage, I'm telling you, it really on Twitter is a lot like the argument about them just being a Koch brothers front. They're not on Twitter. It's weird as shit. Memphis. There's not a Memphis Twitter.
Memphis is a functionally illiterate institution. Let's be real. That's not a college. I'm not an academic elitist by any means, but Memphis is not a college.
No, it's not.
Those were the ones.
It's a collection of buildings where, ostensibly classes have been held at one point.
Executive training program, if we're being perfectly honest.
It's not even FedEx executive. It's FedEx regional manager, maybe
distribution center employee.
American Athletic
Conference. Here's how you input this data into a spreadsheet.
It's 10,000 people who are Tom Hanks's character in the first 10 minutes of Castaway. That's basically what we're. That's what we are.
And similarly, they fucking get into a plane crash every time they hire a new coach.
Yeah. People, it was to Twitter. I didn't even know where to look. This at least is obviously the history and stuff. But it was
the most we could really do. The most we could really do on AAC Twitter was talk about how much we fucking hated it here. Talk to Fear the Wave every now and then, and just hope Tulane the best. And then it was just 5 burner accounts that we were all convinced were just Mike Oresco. And just talking this crazy pro AAC super MAGA bullshit that was just it was the weirdest combination.
SMU fan who jumps in these spaces once in a while. Total weirdo.
I oddly almost kind of like him now because UConn clearly succeeding now. No, stick into the bit. And I'm like, you know what? If you're gonna keep doing it,
it's good. I can't tell if it's a surrealist art piece, but it's fucking funny regardless.
It's the most Andy Kaufman shit I've seen.
Because it's SMU fan 1764998. You know what I mean? It's one of those.
There was no rivalry.
Really sad
nobody to talk shit to. We had a tournament at Dickies Arena in fucking Fort Worth. Everything about that whole entire conference was it had the personality of a generic conference room.
Yeah, I mean, we make fun of Memphis, but that Memphis might be the best academic school in the Tulane.
Tulane's pretty good.
Tulane is pretty good, and then SMU is okay, but man,
our biggest bit was just when we played Tulsa, we would call them Tulane, and when we played Tulane, we would call them Tulsa.
That
was literally all we had.
Well, Armin, to what you guys are going through, it actually reminds me of Temple. The only school that Georgetown's predicament makes me think of right now, honestly, is Temple.
Fucking, we're worse than Temple. They beat us in a secret scrimmage.
Oh God,
Jesus! That was last year, John. Come on,
Georgetown. No, Temple.
That was this year.
Yeah, that's not analogous. I'll tell you the only thing that's a little bit analogous, weirdly, to Georgetown at a lower level is St. Joe's. They're a year away from being because St. Joe's was
they beat us last year
most years, and it was a really good team in the A10. Jameer Nell. I mean, they had a lot of good history, and they have just been an unmitigated disaster under this guy Billy Lang.
Well, it's now we can say, given how things are going, it's the funniest thing that's happened by far to UConn basketball the last 5 years is when Billy Lang and St. Joe's came into Gamble and blew the fucking doors off.
In his second game ever, and everyone was like, "This guy's gonna be the next great thing."
And we did. The next game was the UConn beat Florida when they came into Gamble top 15, and things were off. And it's just now, I actually kind of appreciate the St. Joseph's game because it's just so fucking funny that happened. And it was a St. Joseph's team that year went 6-26. Like they lost their next 8 games in a row. They actually lost. They lost 13 of their next 14. Let me take that back. They lost 19 of their next 21. It's just such a comet that occurred, and it was really fucking funny.
That dude, Billy Lang, if you watch him conference or whatever, or you would think that guy is like the next Mike Krzyzewski. He's like good looking. He says all the right things, and he doesn't seem totally fake. He really has it. And then you're like, oh, I wonder why he was.
Yeah.
What his resume is, and you look and you're like, oh, he was like.
He coached at Villanova for a couple of years as an assistant to Jay. Right?
Well, that's the thing. He had like a career 39% winning percentage at like Navy. And then was like, got run from there and sat on Jay Wright's bench for a while. And he's like a good looking, cool dude. And they're like, well, he's got to have another shot, you know? And it's like, nope, no, he doesn't.
Really, really great that the two schools that we've compared to each other appear on Villanova's schedule every fucking year. So it's really awesome.
I did notice full 40 that I did unfortunately mention Temple, forgetting what has occurred earlier this season.
Yeah. By the way,
they both beat Georgetown every year too.
Speaking of Big Five, that kid on Penn, Jordan Dingle, whose dad was on the UMass Final Four team,
dude,
fucking like borderline All-American.
He's really good.
Yeah,
he's really good.
He's second in the country in percentage of possession, so he's certainly getting volume, but understandably so.
I think Villanova had him like almost scoreless in the first half, and he still scored like 25 on us at the Finneran
saw
Pavilion.
That game. He had like 25 all in the second half. It was wild. They stunk, but yeah.
Wednesday night they play something called Wilkes. He might score 50. Like
Wilkes?
Yeah, Pennsylvania P3 school.
Right by me, bro. Come on.
Sorry, Cody. Well, you want to play Wednesday? They might need a body.
No, Wilkes is really a bunch of meat, but just like 50 pounds heavier on each guy. That's Wilkes.
Well, yeah, you weigh 38 pounds, so that's not surprising.
It's named after John Wilkes Booth.
Booth, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
They're assassins. They can really shoot it.
Post game, I hope they ask the coach, but how was the game?
Good nursing program there. That's what they got.
Oh man, yeah, no. Tomorrow night after the game, Armin, if you can stomach it, we'll be on here. I mean,
look, if I watch the game,
we'll be on here.
Yeah, I'll be here. No, I'll be here.
I said this after our game. I actually jokingly if the first time we trail in the second half all year is Georgetown, I will laugh myself to death.
Look, I'm gonna call it right now. I would never put money on this, but if I were to bet anything in this game, it's for Georgetown to at least cover in the first half.
Yes, I agree.
I actually have a question for you guys. How big first of all, is there going to be some sort of ovation for Akok tomorrow?
There fucking better be. I think there will.
I don't know. We were talking about this earlier. Meghan and I were a little torn on this.
I mean, I know.
Why wouldn't there be? There's no ill will. Georgetown. Sorry, Armin. I mean, you're a fucking joke. You're certainly not in the way. Like everybody liked the guy while he was here, and
you almost have to feel bad for him at this point.
Yeah, he was just hurt all the time. I was 20 feet away when the injury happened. But it was the most surreal thing I've ever witnessed, and it was the last game before COVID. Like, it's still wild to me, everything that occurred in that sequence.
Look, there's no reason not to, because I love him. I think he's a great guy. Like, he's the only person who I think actually, like, really cares on this roster. And it seems like from what I've gotten from you guys and UConn Twitter in general, is like, there's zero bad blood. You guys like him too. He's a great guy, and
he's our best player. He's better than Brandon Murray.
I would love to see something out of UConn's fans, just some kind of
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. I think he was the one guy, and we kind of opened with this, but he was the one guy on the roster last year that, just given what we had coming in and kind of the makeup of what everything looked like he's the one guy that wasn't playing a ton that has like a pro-ish future. right?
He's the best prospect, I think, on Georgetown's roster. I think Brendan Murray could be a pro player, but like if there's one person who could be built into a pro, it is Akok Akok because
I mean that's on Georgetown's roster.
For sure,
that's not saying a lot, but
he was the guy. But he was the guy that like needed to go and get minutes somewhere, and like you're going to get minutes at Georgetown, you know, and like he wasn't. I mean, you've seen Klingon this year, and you guys haven't seen enough of Sampson, but Johnson was the opening night starter, and we haven't been playing with him. He might arguably be our best NBA prospect. Now he's not our best player, but at this point, he's got a long way to go to be that. But his pro upside is enormous. And we haven't been playing with him. I think the way that Hurley kind of wanted to play this year just wasn't a fit, right? So you know he was the one guy that has to go. So like you know, no ill will on that side to it. But it was interesting how it left because him and Andre were getting after it a little bit on social media, and it didn't seem like all sunshine and rainbows on the other end. So it's going to be really kind of interesting to see that dynamic between, you know, they'll be competitive and really go at it tomorrow night. But it's going to be really interesting to kind of see that dynamic play out on the floor a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, I was talking about this. I'm just one of those guys. I have to get over it. Right? It's a me problem. It's not everybody else. But there's, you know, an element that you know is fine. Kids got to do what's in their best interest, especially, you know, when they're talking professional futures here, whether it's in the NBA or not. Right? Like Akok Akok's going to play basketball for a very long time. Right? Yeah. So like needs to take care of himself. I get it. I understand. There's also part of me that like, you know, it's the guy in me. I have a hard time sometimes getting through that. Like I read social media posts where everybody's like, man, everybody was great here. I loved it here. I love the fans. Goodbye. But I'm out of here. So like, I don't know, man, that stuff gets under my skin a little bit. I'll get over it eventually. But
no, I would give him like an ovation when he checks in, but I hope Adama immediately blocks him into the 6th row. Like,
yep.
But yeah, and I think that's an understanding.
Absolutely.
I had forgotten that he was in the Andre Jackson offseason kill list. I forgot about that. Because Andre had about a 2-week period where it almost got like uncomfortable how much he was going after guys on Instagram.
Yeah, him dunking on Corey Floyd and a Cook and then there was a whole interview where he had where, you know, something I can't remember what the exact quote was, but like, yeah, man, this is a place where the strong survive. And you know, like,
did I miss something? Like,
and I was like, holy shit! Like Andre's ready for war. And
it really had much as we loved the team last year. We drastically misread all of the interpersonal relationships involving that team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was. I don't think it was dysfunctional, but I think there was guys that got froze out just by the way things kind of broke down. And, you know, who knows how kids feel, you know, behind the scenes and what they bury and all of that. And, you know, I don't care. I don't want to know about any of it. I don't know anything. So don't ask me. But like, I just, you know, I thought that whole thing that dynamic was interesting, and it wasn't like it was quiet on the way out the door, you know. And I think there were some guys that may not have been as bought in as others, and some guys that were bought in really took that personally, you know. So yeah, and you know, look, and May brought this up too because we were talking about, you know, and we talk about the Husky Ticket Project fundraiser way too much, but like it's one of those things where like you meet Andre and he is a kid that is so much older and wiser than his years. Like he's the one guy, like all the guys there were kind of hanging out, but they were like traveling around in a herd, minus Adama, who was sitting up against the wall just talking about his hook shot the entire time. But like Andre was like the mayor, you know, he's like going table to table and introducing himself and taking pictures with people and thanks for coming out. It's really great to meet everybody. Like, you know, like a 35-year-old man, you know what I mean? That's been doing this shit a long time. And, you know, you meet a guy that's that put together and so bought in on his teammates. And like, he was the guy kind of like pointing to guys, hey guys, come over here. I want you to meet so like take a picture with those guys. Like you could tell the team dynamic, like, you know who the alpha male is in that room, in that locker room. And it's Andre. Like he's the guy, that's kind of got everybody by the balls. Like, Adama's a wonderful guy, but like, it was really kind of funny talking to Adama. Like, I'm asking him like, hey man, how's everything going? How's the off season? And you settled in, you get a chance to go home at all, like just trying to make small talk and be nice. And all he wanted to talk about was like, I worked on my jump shot this year and I was working hook and I've been practicing this move under the rim. And like, all he wants to talk about is basketball. And there's like this awesome sort of and I don't mean this in an even slightly negative way, but there's like this awesome naivete about Adama relative to some of the other guys, right? Like, he's just in there playing basketball and having the fucking time of his life, right? And he's like obsessed with getting better. Like, Andre's the guy that really you can tell relishes kind of being the leader. And given how mature, you get around some of these kids and those guys, they stick out right off the bat. And given how mature he is, like, it makes you think, like, what do you do to get under that guy's skin? Like, and get him to kind of like, that's the guy that's got the emotional maturity to understand like what you need to say in public and what you don't. Right. And then the fact that like nobody on the staff was like, yeah, no, Andre shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, that was the giveaway. That was what blew my mind. I was like, oh. It was like the old story about when the famous when Khalid jumped on the table at Pitt and Jim Calhoun was like, well, I'll let him have a few seconds. So that's when like when the staff push back at all on it. You're like, okay, this we're kind of just getting it all out, and you can't say it hasn't worked because it's still kind of blowing my mind what's happening for Armin and for Full 40. Like, I don't understand how this UConn season has happened. I'm on board with it, obviously, but I'm still processing. Like, they're so bad for content, but also like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been an element on our end of like trying to buy into it ourselves, because like I kind of expected us to be just a different team this year, but roughly either a little bit better or a little bit worse than we were last year. Kind of second weekend team. You get to 5 years of a rebuilding project, and like this is the time in a rebuild where you usually have that one leveling off year, right? Where you kind of plateau a little bit. And when you have that many pieces, and then on top of it, like a lot of like no-nos in the transfer portal, meaning, you're trying to avoid, like, we didn't have that dedicated point guard, right? Like, you got to get one, and that's always the thing that's kind of hardest to install on a new team. I know Villanova's going through it with the whole point guard thing this year, but like, it's that's the toughest thing to kind of add to the mix. And like, there was a lot of questions around it. And so like for everything to come up aces so far is, I mean, so unusual. I mean, I don't care where, right? Like, and we've talked about this a lot on Spaces. Like, you look at Texas last year and all the talent that they brought in, and, until he turned into a fucking lunatic, as good of a coach as Chris Beard was. And I'm using past tense now to refer to that. But like, they were in a shit show, but they were not a cohesive unit at all. And now this year have obviously synced up. They've had a year to play with each other. You're getting a couple hundred practices under your belt. Now things start to look different, right? And so that's kind of what's so crazy about this season is that there's a core of guys that have been playing together for, a certain length of period of time. But like Calcaterra, completely new guy. Tristan Newton, completely new guy. Like, Alex Caravan was here in the spring practicing, but like ostensibly a new guy. Donovan Klingon, he's a new guy. So like, go on down the roster, like half of this crew is brand new, and then there's another 2 or 3 guys that played poop for minutes last year. So like, but to have every single human being come up and hit on them, it's wild. I mean, even Richie Springs, who's hardly played this year, like the minutes he's had have been good. Like,
you
he
love Richie Springs. It's amazing.
Do like Richie. I think Richie would be a starter at Georgetown. I think he'd start at half of the teams in the conference right now. I would say a third.
I can't disprove. I mean, this is so out of control what's happening. It wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I'm going to dip out because I got work in the morning. You probably addressed it before I came on because I was dealing with a few circuit board and trying not to die in my house. It's in the title. I love this football team. I just want to make sure I say that before I go.
We didn't even get into it.
Oh Jesus!
We started talking Georgetown
God.
and we went Georgetown.
Oh, we owe those kids that. We'll do a tight 10. Well, look, the way. No offense to Armin and company, but the way the game's going to be tomorrow night, we might do the football space tomorrow night.
I would say go for it.
I don't know how much
could be a football score.
Yeah, I don't know how much we'll break it down. No, I do think this is the sort of game tomorrow night might bring out the crazy, like, because is now the point at which everyone's expectations are so high that if Georgetown isn't, if UConn isn't up 40 at the half, are people like, what's going on? Like, because I do expect Georgetown to play hard, some of the players, but like, it would be really funny to me if somehow Georgetown leads in the second half. It would be, if that's the first time, that would be objectively, I would almost be in support of it. Because I do think we would still win comfortably, because it's really stupid that, and Nova's kind of in the way here of the another stat going around today, the last Big East team to win their first, at that point it'd be the first 14 games by double digits. The last team was like the Cuse team in, I don't know, 2011 or whatever.
It was Cuse. So Fanta was on my podcast and he brought it up. Cuse in like 85, 86 won their first 13 games by double digits. That's the last time such a thing has happened. And the only thing standing in between that, you tying that, is
Georgetown. And then Nova. And my thought today was, oh, well, that might be it. Because I am just growing in fear of Villanova being like, you guys are just standing there with a steel chair. I know we're better. I know we're better. You did this whole slow roll of new coach. I don't know, man. Fucking Cam Whitmore.
You think they're hiding behind a curtain like Jake the Snake with a steel chair just ready to whack us as we come through?
And now all of a sudden they have the best NBA prospect like in college basketball to just fucking show up and hit us in the head. I'm not. This isn't me saying I think we'll lose. I'm just. Full 40 has been just over the top with praise and DMs, and I appreciate it. And he's kind of been a therapist more than anything else to get us to believe how good the team is.
Yeah, I think you were the first person to be like, guys, I think you're really good.
And we were like, really? And he was like, yeah, you're up like 20 on Iowa State. Yeah, I think you might be all right.
Yeah, I'm getting shit. I had a Villanova fan recently send me like just a tweet out there, just being like, "Here's my Christmas gift for Villanova for full 40," and it was literally like a UConn jersey.
That's HotBalls' fault. You're such a dick, but somehow you're endearing. I don't understand it, but I love it. Like nobody should like you, objectively. That's not a UConn fan, and yet
mildly acceptable. But yeah, I mean,
the thing you wear though is not really. I don't know if Full 40 or Armin are familiar with the pullover.
Yeah, I'm still wearing it right now, by the way.
Yeah,
so
I'm very
I have
aware.
A pullover. I haven't changed in a month now.
Yeah. So your fans actually, it's kind of hilarious because your fans sometimes also just buy in that I'm like the friendly neighborhood Villanova fan, but like then forget that the Villanova fan is like a key point there. And right. So when I ostensibly bring up something or make a comparison between the programs or players who were in the program, the people who show up are like, "This guy's a fucking asshole. What the hell's going on here? I thought he was on our side." I was like, what are you talking about?
No, one of the critiques of our fan base that I mean would be fair is that like we're so hyper militant. It's like it leads to things like that. Like I'm half stunned somebody didn't give you a hard time for not tweeting during our bowl game today or something. Like there's no reason why you would, but we're a very all or nothing fan base.
Like I have no connection to the state of Connecticut. None. I don't have family who lives there. I know some people from UConn. I
think most of your wardrobe might be from here. The sweater vest is very popular here.
Yes, that's a fair point. But But point is that I just watched the team and I was just like, fuck, this team's really fucking good. And like now it's almost like I watched like I watch a fair amount of college basketball, but like when I know UConn is playing, and it's a Big East thing, I tend to watch the Big East schools no matter what. But like I definitely go out of my way to watch you guys. So it's
I'm
just
excited
like
for your game Wednesday. You guys have a fucking huge game Wednesday in terms of early in the season with St. John's.
Yeah, so like kind of the shtick with Nova right now is we have 3 games coming up. We have St. John's at home, then we're at XL, and then we have Marquette at home on New Year's.
Ooh,
and
that's brutal.
Yeah, it's not the best schedule to start out, but then it flattens out for a little bit in January. The thought is that Villanova 6-5, if we can beat St. John's and Marquette, and I figure a loss to you guys at Excel is if we can get to 8-6, it's actually like a pretty good position to be in, given everything that's happened so far this season. To get to like 8-6, like you feel like you can attack the rest of your schedule and maybe run out the record to something like 14-8 by the end of January, and then all of a sudden you feel like, okay, can we win 5-6 more games this regular season before Selection Sunday? And if you get to 19 wins, 20 wins, given the way the injuries played out, and figure that there has to be some quality wins in there just by nature of the conference, that the name will get called on Selection Sunday. That's kind of the angle. That's the anatomy of Villanova making the NCAA.
No, I've said it. You're my pick. You're going to be in the first 4, and you're going to be in the Sweet 16. Like, I can already see the shit.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys kind of have the stink of one of those first 4 teams that make a run kind of thing. Assuming you can get in. Like, that's going to be the interesting thing. I mean, are you guys are you guys hosting Marquette, or are you at Marquette?
We're hosting Marquette.
All right, so that's good for you then.
And
I think St. John's is a total fraud. I think you guys will boat race them. I'm completely out on St. John's. Completely.
Are you out on them to the point where you no longer think that they get us? Or is that because we're better than we thought when we were making that joke?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They haven't played anybody, and the only team they played, they got fucking shit rocked by.
And I had the over, which was fucking stupid in that Iowa State. Oh God.
Yeah, they're just
stop gambling.
And that's a team we obviously handled. So I'm not sold on them. I mean, look, they muck it up. They create a lot of chaos. They're really good defensively. They can't score the basketball, man. They're literally, if you took like 40% St. John's does on defense and gave it not even 20% and gave it to Xavier would be the best team in the league with their offense. And same thing vice versa. Like if you could give St. John's 30 to 35% of what Xavier is capable of on offense and gave that to them, they'd be a really, really good team. But I'm just not buying it. I mean, the one thing that Xavier's got going for it at least is they can at least score the basketball, get up and down, and they'll win some shootouts, right? Particularly from 3, they're really, really good. Like I watched them play the other night, and they literally fucking didn't do anything well except hit 3-pointers. And like nothing.
It takes you pretty far, though.
They just fucking bombs away. So like, I don't know, man. I think St. John's is the one that I'm really not buying into. I think they're part of the middle of the conference gobbledygook. I think the interesting thing about Nova for me is they're the one team I can't really decide yet, but like I'm feeling optimistic about them, and part of the reason for that being they're a tough scout right now. Cam Whitmore's played 2 basketball games. Like, what's the tape on that guy?
Well, also, go ahead and scout him. What the hell are you going to do with it? Like,
well, there's not a lot you can do, but like you can take. My point is, you can take the edge off. Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of him fucking absolutely turning you into shark chum, you can make it so that he just keeps you in the bucket, right? So, like, I don't know. So it's going to be interesting with them, and then when they get more back, like that's going to be interesting to see what the dynamic of everything looks like there, because I would assume everything going to probably run through more, even if it ends up with Cam or whoever, like, and just how that changes things with Caleb Daniels, who like, I think has been asked to do a lot of shit that he's not comfortable doing, and really shouldn't be doing. Eric Dixon has been left on a fucking island. If there was a castaway of the year in the Big East of a guy that's just thanklessly been fed to the sharks every single night and somehow held his own, it's been Eric Dixon. That poor bastard has the worst night imaginable every single night in terms of what he has to do to like keep his team hanging around.
Looks over the bench, sees Chris, goes, "Oh fuck, all right."
Well, even Arch hasn't played terrible the last few
I
weeks.
know.
Granted, it's against UPenn and St. Joe. But here's the flip side, though. Like
block.
they look better, but like, you know, they played a kind of competitive game with BC and they had to pull away a little bit later. Like it's UPenn and St. Joe's, and I don't want to totally shit on them, but like, you know, Oklahoma State's not a top tier Big 12 team. I mean, Oklahoma rather isn't a top 10 tier Big 12 team. So like, and you know, they barely beat them at home, you know? So like, I'm not buying them as a team that's going to go on a huge run yet. I really think for Villanova, I think the game against us in XL is going to be really huge towards like really getting an idea of like at least the overall direction of where they're headed. And like, if that can be a really competitive game or they pull one out of their butts, like that can be a complete conversation changer for them.
Yeah, look, obviously Villanova goes out and that's a total game changer for the season because that's like that's like there was a good chunk until you guys beat us last year at XL. There was a good chunk of your season where you guys were hanging your hats a lot on like your high end of your resume on the Auburn win earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And it's actually it would be more than that for Villanova.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And oh god, the discourse if Dan Hurley coaches a full game against Villanova and loses. Oh god, I'm already dreading it. We're undefeated, and I'm inventing things to be pissed about. I know it's awful. It's awful. I'm gonna go to bed. You guys keep going. You're wonderful, Armin. Sorry, it sucks. I don't know. Hang in there, buddy.
Thank you.
I'm not convinced. I kind of actually have the UConn game kind of chalked up as like whatever happens, like roll the dice, see what the team's going to bring. But I don't have any expectations there. My expectations are with this game versus St. John's on Wednesday. That is to me like so critical. Like Nova has to find a way to win, no matter what. At least one of the games at home versus St. John's and Marquette, if not both.
Yeah, I mean, I think St. John's is a must-win, and I think they have to hold serve against Marquette. Like, that's the thing I'm most torn with Nova. Like, you know, are enough quality resume wins left on the schedule for them to realistically get? Like, you know, the Creighton win has been completely devalued at this point, right? So that's like, you know, I get it. They're probably much better than their record, and when they get Kalkbrenner back, that's going to be different. But like, you know, given what's happened there, you know, they're kind of in free fall a little bit in terms of the quality of win that gives you, right?
Yeah, let me just comment on that real quick, HotBalls.
Yeah.
I mentioned I had Fanta on the podcast today. There was a couple things that he said on it that were like, oh, wow, a member of the media said that. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. One of them was that he said, he's like, it's weird to see Greg McDermott stumped about what to do with the team. And it's like, and it feels to me like there's a lot of NIL business going on there. So I thought that was just an interesting point because for him to say it feels to me that like you know, we've had these conversations already. Like these guys in the college basketball media sphere don't just start like saying shit if they don't just start like unless it's like Goodman, but Fanta doesn't do this. Like doesn't just start pulling shit out of his ass to, you know, free associate. He's working off of some modicum of knowledge.
So I heard, and I'm not again trying to pour gas on the fire, but they said it a bunch of guys that are pretty on the in with the program on a Creighton Spaces after Marquette shit stomping were on there, and a bunch of guys were bringing up that they were hearing things were not all sunny in paradise behind the scenes with that team. Now I don't know exactly what's going on there. And you may be right, man. Like, there could be some NIL shit going on, but it definitely seems like there's team chemistry issues. I mean, I don't know if you saw what they fucking ran against BYU, but Jesus Christ, like, Greg McDermott did not fucking draw that play up, But like, the other thing with them, and it could be chemistry issues, but I also think it's this, man. Like, they can't fucking shoot. Like, I mean, you look at Nembhard, you look at Kaluma, you look at Trey Alexander, like, everybody's going at them the same exact way, right? They were doing it when they had Kalkbrenner. Now I don't have to worry about Kalkbrenner. I mean, they can just fucking blanket Shireman with whichever stud-ass defender you have. And, again, Shireman's a good player. I think he's gotten a little shit from the Creighton fan base because he hasn't been an out-and-out superstar, but, like, he's the only guy that you really have to worry about. Because, like, what they've been doing in the past is doubling down on fucking, Kalkbrenner, shadowing Shireman, and just daring Trey Alexander and Kaluma and Nembhard shoot over you. And they haven't produced, man. Like, they just haven't done it. I think combined, they're shooting like 32%. Now, I shot like 28% last year. So a little bit better this year. And, maybe it can be floor spacing issues, like, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but, like, I just think there was a lot of expectations around those guys, just automatically people assuming them getting better. And they really haven't. Like, and the other thing is, like, I think McDermott wants to play that 4 and out, right? Like, they're a shooting team and they're not a fucking shooting team. And he just keeps banging away at it. And so, I mean, I think there's some adjustments that the coaching staff's got to make. I think there may be some chemistry issues, but, like, at the end of the day with them, maybe they're just not that good. Like, maybe that's the problem. And that's not even unpacking the issues they've had defensively. They get pounded on the board. So it's like, granted, not having Kalkbrenner hasn't helped, but, like, Kalk isn't a guy that can handle a double team. He's not as strong as a Sonogo, a Dixon kind of guy who's going to be able to muscle his way around, at least survive down there. One-on-one, he's a handful, but you start throwing two bodies on him, it's a little bit different. So I'm not saying they're bad, and I don't know if I'm just caught up in a unique UConn trauma because we've lost to them 5 times. That might be affecting me. That, and there was just so much hype behind them that I definitely bought into, especially after watching them play Arkansas and Maui. Like, that was like watching something from a different dimension. So, it's in there. But, like, they're in free fall right now, man. Like, where's the quality win? They have to beat us twice. Like, they're not a tournament team right now, if you look at their resume. So the Creighton thing is a problem, I think, for Villanova. Marquette certainly helps, but you at least have to hold serve and split with them, if not take both of those. You can't lose both of those games. Ideally, you want to steal a win from us. Losing to us twice isn't going to kill you, given our resume. But I feel like you got to beat St. John's. I feel like you got to beat Marquette. And I feel you got at least one of those, 3 of those teams. I feel like 2 you got to sweep and 1 you got to split. And then you got to basically hold serve and not do something retarded as shit, like get blown out by Seton Hall at home or something. Right? Like, but that's what I worry about, because Villanova always has a fucking dud game on this. Every year you guys have one where, most teams do, where you guys forget how to play basketball and lose to Creighton by 32 or something.
Yeah, my one thought there is that we might have already had that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's very interesting. After the December stretch, we play at Georgetown, home versus Xavier, which is an opportunity.
Yeah, that's another one. I forgot about them.
Then at DePaul, at Butler, which is like 2 opportunities to, like, just get that's those are your examples right there of just fucking throwing a dud. Then home versus Georgetown. So, like, that's what I was talking about. Like, 5 winnable games. Not saying that we would, but if you get out of this stretch 2-1, then rip off 4-1 in that next stretch, all of a sudden you're talking about a team that's got, 12 wins to its name and like 7 losses, and that's like reasonable enough position to play from to get the numerical number of wins to get into the dance.
Right. Yeah, no, now you're talking a little bit more realistic. That's my biggest worry with you guys, though. I'm not so much worried about you guys getting better. You're going to get better. I mean, we've got two really good potentially nuclear pieces. We'll see what Justin Mora looks like when he gets back. But even if he's like 70% of what he was, it can just facilitate a little bit better. Like, I think that the difference that could be is substantial, right? Like, sure, it'd be nice to have the scoring back, but I think more than anything, you guys just need the facilitation in your offense and, obviously stabilize the defense a little bit too.
Yeah.
Those things.
I actually feel like his effort's more needed on defense just because of the way Villanova plays defensively. Not to I mean, obviously he's a great offensive player, but his offensive game, I'm not saying taking it for granted when he comes back, but his offensive game is not predicated off of like this super explosive athleticism. It's kind of more like guile and strength and backing people down in the post. And he's not like a guy who's going to blow by you with that first step that is crazy. It's more he'll find his way to the rim with his strength and just knowing how to get there, or he'll shoot. But on the defensive end, he's one of those guys, because Villanova switches 1 to 5. He's one of those guys that's strong enough, so he'll put the effort in to front the post if he gets switched out. And obviously, a guy like a Klingon, he could just go above that. But a lot of teams in the Big East and a lot of teams around the country, like 20, we talked about this all the time, 21-year-old college kids, they see someone in front of the guy in the post and freak out and don't pass it to him. And so Villanova wins a lot of games like that. And I don't know if and we're missing a guy with that level of size and strength to be able to actually do that down there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you guys are, I think, by far the most interesting team to watch heading forward. Just when you take into account the whole cocktail, right? Just in terms of pieces coming back, like how, and I think you guys will be helped in a weird way too, because again, you're going to be a tougher scout, right? Like seeing exactly how Moore is going to fit in, and Cam Whitmore, like it could be a little bit of an advantage in some ways for you guys. So like I'm really interested to see what Nova does this year. I'm cautiously optimistic. I just hope you guys haven't dug too much of a hole yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I hear you. But yeah, man. I'll toss it back. I kind of like talked a lot in your space. I'll toss it back to you guys. I don't know what you got for the UConn front here, but
yeah, not a whole lot more. I think I'm going to do last call here if anybody wants to request to come in. Sorry, my Spaces shit is still semi-broken. I tried to update Twitter today, which I did, and fucking thanks for nothing, Elon. So anybody wants to request to come on, give us some last-minute nonsense, you're more than welcome to do that. But other than that, wanted to talk more about football tonight and give those guys their kudos. Maybe what we'll have to do is set a special time. Maybe we'll try to grab some of the guys, get them in here, and thank them, because this was a really, really fun college football season. And, I know I know the coach isn't happy with 6 and 7, but man, that was about as fun of a 6 and 7 football season as I can ever remember having. So want to make sure that we give those guys their due. Tonight kind of went off the rails in a good way, but that's the point of our Spaces. Things get interesting. We go in different directions. So not seeing any new requests here. I think everybody's pretty well cooked. It's 1:15. It's a work night. We will have Spaces tomorrow after the game. I'm going to try to line it up for about a half hour, and we'll get rocking and rolling. But Georgetown tomorrow night. Sorry, Armin, for what we're about to do to your team. Could be pretty disgusting. But enjoy it, guys. We've got about maybe 3-4 college basketball games I don't think we're going to have to stress too much about watching. So enjoy it while you got it. Smoke them while you got them. Rah, rah. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow night. All right, guys, keep in touch with yourselves as always, and we'll see you on the flip side.